about you. I'm just forgetting about you. Forever, yeah, yeah, yeah. I burned your letters, and I'm just forgetting about you. I'm just forgetting about you.
2 weeks ago, we were in Hockenheim to see our All-Stars take part in the first round of the Porsche All-Stars Championship here as part of our coverage of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup 2022. My name is Paul Smith. Alongside me, in a far-flung country, it is Matt Trivett. Welcome along, Matt. You know, you can't keep away from this championship, can you?
No, absolutely not. Look, I couldn't join you at the circuit this time, so to speak. But I am in Poland, currently at IEM Katowice, so doing double duty. Casted some Counter-Strike this morning, but like you say, couldn't miss this for the world. And here we are in a hotel room, mind you, but we're gonna make it work. I've got my timing screen, I've got you on my right, and we're gonna have a good show today, and hopefully some great racing. Circuit de Catalunya is usually entertaining as a driver, but sometimes it can be interesting for racing. It has produced a lot of drama in PESC in the past.
It certainly has done, that's for sure. And of course, our All-Stars, we had them last year as well, so they're getting a second stab at this. Here's the track then, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. As you can see, 4.6 kilometers, 2.89 miles, 16 turns. I'm old enough to remember watching the first Grand Prix back in 1991 around here, so I'm urging myself. But it's a very technical track, isn't it, Matt?
It is, and there's a reason that Formula One goes here for testing. It has a little bit of everything. You know, you've got high speed, you've got low speed, Sector 3 as well. You've got some very hard braking points, the addition of the chicane to try and bring the overall speeds down and increase safety. And we know that that can be a place, especially in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, that drivers can trip over each other just because there's such a the accordion effect, that concertina effect, that the hard braking. But yeah, high-speed sweepers, a lot of aerodynamic wash that happens in Formula One, which is why I think a lot of people give it a bad name as a racetrack. But in PESC, it's always been very, very close. And here we are with the All-Stars on track. And this is what I love, Paul, because they have the open qualifying. So we get to see all the cars all at once, either benefiting or being blocked. You can definitely get a draft and get a tow on this track.
You certainly can. Now, this week, we've not got Lauren Heinrich. Apparently, he was a bit too good for the All-Stars last time out. But instead, we've got somebody, yeah, he's got some racing credentials to his name. Laurens Vanthoor, of course, Le Mans winner. He's also a IMSA Sports Car Championship winner as well with the championship. Narrowly missed out on winning at Daytona just a few weeks ago as well, Matt. So he's got some racing credentials to his name, and let's see how it goes here with the All-Stars.
I'll be completely honest with you. Speaking with a few people inside of Porsche, they said that was one of the greatest advertisements for racing in years. The two Porsches going at it between Pfaff, who did end up winning it, and Gemini at the wheel of that, and obviously Laurens Vanthoor giving it a go in the KCG Porsche, but just coming a little bit shy at the end. But man, oh man, I can't imagine what some of the Porsche staff were feeling watching that, but that was awesome racing. That was so good to watch. So even though Laurens Vanthoor didn't win the Daytona 24-hour, he gave racing fans something to remember. So it's really cool that he's here now, jumping in with us in Sim, and we'll get a good look at the circuit now. There you go. Oh, wow, there you go. There's that hard braking point. Jimmy Broadbent showing us how it's not done. He's an entertainer, Jimmy, and that's all he's trying to do right now. He's just entertaining us. Trust me, he'll get a lap in.
Meanwhile, here's somebody who, she's entertaining, but also extremely quick. Emily Jones-Emery. I mean, what she can't do in a car with rear-wheel drive and a whole lot of horsepower isn't worth knowing, because she's just so good, so fast, and she just gives it her all here. And of course, our champion from last year, hence the number one on our Vodafone on board. But Emily Jones, fantastic driver. And here we go. Here's our Porsche factory driver. And look at that setup there, Matt.
How clean is this? Is he like in the Porsche factory right now? He's got all the helmets. He's got trophies. Did he set this up just for tonight? You know, is he flexing? I don't know. It looks beautiful, though. Like, if his whole apartment or house or wherever he is that clean, this guy's a stylish dude. No question about it. Yeah, but look, everyone knows this guy's one of the fastest GT drivers in the entire world, Paul, as we'll take a look for an onboard around Circuit de Catalunya, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, I should use the full name. And this is obviously one of the longest straightaways we'll see all season, with the exception of Le Mans and Nürburgring, which are very different circuits in their own right. Turn 1, sweeper, you do get a good amount of braking, but you get nice and up hard over the curbs. You want to carry some flow, not use all the track on the exit of 2 because you need to get it in and get it balanced for 3. And this corner is such a long corner. Patience, and that's what you don't want to do. Obviously, we mentioned this last week in iRacing. One of the things that these cars do not have, the 992 Cup cars, is traction control. But a short shift, even during the torque vectoring and the higher RPMs, is still extremely valuable. So, yeah, you can see already maybe that was wise to do there, Paul.
Yeah, but look at how he was able to just control that slide, though, Matt, because that was, just how really you can sort of hold a spit and stop it completely rotating 360. As well, here's our format for today. So this is the All-Stars format. We've got the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, the 992, the first season that we're running that. We've got a fixed setup. Now, the sprint race and the main race have been increased by 2 minutes each. So we are getting a little bit more action here, Matt, from the All-Stars this week and going forward for the rest of the season. So these drivers, they don't need to maybe panic quite as much and at the start of a race and give themselves a little bit more time to make overtakes. Although,
these guys
I say that, yeah.
Come on now. Not our all-stars, not with reverse grids. But no, look, that is cool. And just, I mean, it's going to be pretty exciting again. Keep in mind, yes, there is that full reverse grid format, which applies to everyone. And last week, that applied especially to Emily Jones. I know you talked about Emery's pace already. She wasn't on her best form. No. And the reason I bring that up, there you go, the timing tower. She currently sits P1 ahead of Kirkatise, who's one of the new drivers to the series this year. So another good performance for him. I think he was on the podium last time out in the main race. So, again, showing off some speed.
Yeah, Bolgezazo, TK as well, Tony Kanaan pretty close together as well. And Dan Suzuki just a few hundredths of a second behind Tony Kanaan as well. Ooh. And Lawrence Van Toort trying his hardest to get around this track, and this time can't even make it through turn 2.
Yeah, he hooked the inside of the curb a little bit too much there, and it just caused the car to rotate. Obviously, the Cup car is still very much a rear-engined car, as opposed to the GT3, where the engine's been realigned and the RSR's been realigned. It's got a lot of rear weight and not as much downforce as those GT3 cars that he's been used to driving so recently. It'll catch you out. It's got a lot more grip than what we had in the 991, no question about it, but high speeds, early in the lap, it's quite an aggressive corner you have to commit to, with TK showing us how it's done much smoother. He even goes for a slightly narrower entrance than what we saw Van Thor going for in his lap, although he still has to use all the track on the exit and get out of the throttle. I think a short shift there, even though it seems odd at that point on the exit that you should be digging into the grip, but it might be something that saves some of these guys. It'd be interesting to see how the actual Tag Heuer guys get about it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to point it out, but it's worth pointing out here. Lawrence Van Toort is not the only driver with a selection of racing helmets in the background of the shot here, because here's Maxime nicely put out with the map of the Nürburgring there as well behind it. So very good presentation on the screen, much more prominent on the background. Yeah,
can you name all the helmets? The one to the right immediately is hers, I would assume, because it's a proper size. But the miniatures, let's go. What do you got?
Well, you've got Landon Norris is in there, surely. You've got Max Verstappen as well, and I believe, is that Lewis Hamilton?
It is, yeah, good job. That is exactly who it is. And Lando's, that's his rookie year helmet, the super bright one. It's a lot more overpowering than his current ones, that's for sure.
Well, that was the trick of Ayrton Senna, though, wasn't it? He had that unique bright yellow helmet that everybody in qualifying would just jump out of the way because they'd just see this neon yellow helmet coming along behind them. They didn't want to ruin his lap. Yeah, maybe that was
I mean, they jump out of the way unless it was Alain Prost, and then he might jump in the way. Oh, wait, sorry, that was the other way around. My bad.
Well, we've not got that problem here today, though. That's for sure, because these drivers are pushing hard. Now, that Heike, he's not got a selection of helmets in the background. He's got his full selection of wheels rims that he can choose from.
Super cool.
I mean, I mean, personally, I've got 3 wheel rims that I use, but I think that's being a bit greedy, personally. I think you need to send me 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, and quite clearly he's on the Fanatec setup because there's quite a few in there that I can recognize. You can see on the right side, sort of second from the top row, he's got the Formula wheel. He's got a couple different GT wheels in there as well. And I think he is on, if I were to guess, the Podium hub with the carbon paddles. So he's probably kind of built up a CSL with a Podium hub. On his, I'm assuming he's going to be on a DD. There you go. He's got the hand clutch. That's exactly it. The Podium hub that you can basically adapt with the button box on it. The Porsche steering wheel is actually very similar to that too, and it may be the Porsche rim because it's got the red on the top as opposed to the clear, which the generic, or the yellow, which my generic one has. So, yeah, very cool. I've got a few. I think you said you got 3. I think I have 4. Yeah. Mine sit on the floor beside me. I need something like that to keep it more presentable.
I have a little cubby hole on my desk because I'm still a desk racer. I don't have the room for a rig, so they're in a little cubby hole in my desk here that I put them in.
Maybe we need to get you a rig and you can just broadcast from it. You'll just be sitting in the car, and when we green screen you, we'll just put you in pit lane. It'd be great.
Well, I mean, I have raced in other all-star events for iRacing World Championships. Just want to put that out there. But, well, here's Idro.
Are you seeing this timing gap right now?
Yes, it is incredibly close at the top of this timing right now. The top 3 covered by less than 3. That's less than 700ths of a second.
Outrageous.
That's incredible.
Well, I logged in and the timing screen was still showing me the incredible eNASCAR race from last week on iRacing, and everyone was like, what, they went 3 wide? Now the gaps are like the same. I thought it was broken again for a second. It was 0.032, 0.068. That's ridiculous. Yeah, very, very close. And then, okay, sure, there's a 3/10 gap back to Yardier, but look at the gap between he and Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, all the way down. I mean, it's down to 10th place, Matt Malone. You know, it's still within a second here. And, well, here we are with Althea. And here's our onboard for the Vodafone onboard, of course. And a new driver to the All-Stars, still getting to grips with the car, I feel, at the moment, but certainly put up a good showing last time out at Hockenheim.
Yeah, no question about it. Great debut, and it's always awesome to see more and more people getting involved. Another female driver in the field as well, because obviously last year we quit Gabby. She's not with us this year. She's been quite busy, so she steps in now at Thelina, and yeah, and I you could be right. I mean, look, the Porsche Cup's a tricky car to drive, and it's I love the 992 compared to what I thought of the 991. I had some pretty vulgar thoughts about the 991 at times while driving it, if I'm honest. That's a me problem, if I'm honest as well, but no, the 992 is great. It is the driver's car. It's raw, it's fun. It'll catch you out if you do something wrong. You've got to be quite deliberate with your inputs, just as any race car really, but more so with this car than most in iRacing. And she was, of all the ones we've ridden on board with, she's the most consistent through turn 3, that's for sure.
And the nice, the nice sort of racing seat as well, the proper GT style seat as well. James West, he's a man who loves a cup of tea. Out there, does game of muscle. He's currently down in 13th, 2 seconds off of pole position, so he needs to pull something out of the bag, although with time running out, of course, when the clock strikes 0 here, that is it. That's the end of your qualifying. And he's actually given Tony Kanaan a bit of a drag. The problem for Kanaan is now he can't get past James.
I just want to point out he's changed his livery again. I assume it's all his face again, if we can get a close-up, but it's bluish rather than
that was Quirk. It was Quirk.
That was Quirk, you're right. Has he copied him?
No, he's got now you see James last year had his logo plastered all over, and he's done it again.
I need to see the close-up. For me, I can't. Your eyes are better than mine. Oh, there's the face. Okay, he's in pits. I thought he was hitting a wall when we jumped over that quickly. The camera caught me out, but yeah, there you go. That's Kirkitage with the face all over that 920 car. Currently in second place right now in qualifying by a very, very slim margin. I think we're gonna have an awesome race.
This is going to be genuinely a really, really close race, not just at the front, but also in your mid-pack as well, because that has been incredibly close. But let's give you your starting grid then. It is Emery, who's on pole position. Alongside her on the front row of the grid is Quirk with Boljazaza and Jardier on row number 2. Row 3 is Heike 360 and Tony Kanaan. Row 4 then, Jimmy Broadbent with Dan Suzuki. Those two had a bit of a battle in the ding-dong last time out. Depaye and Matt Malone, then row number 5 with row 6 of Rai and Idra. Row 7, Game of Muscle and Fiammosante with Maxime, and look at that, Laurent Vantor starting all the way at the back of the grid. He's just trying a back to front challenge, isn't he?
I guess so, yeah. Well, he'll have the reverse grid to at least rely on potentially. But yeah, not what we saw from Lorne Heinrich. Lorne's raced in Pesk itself before the actual proper Porsche Esports Supercup, and is a very, very capable sim racer, raced in the virtual Le Mans 24-hour this year. So we know he's capable in a sim, and maybe that's why Vanthor is being put on the spot now to see what he can deliver. So you might be right. Back to front challenge. But this is a great chance for the regulars in the series to maybe get a win, because it didn't happen last time out, did it?
No, it certainly did not. It was a tremendously exciting race for everyone there, especially in that feature race when we had Heinrich running his way through the field. But we've got 30 seconds left before the start of this one, and the driver's just patiently waiting for the green flag. The Quirk is the last driver onto the grid, so the drivers will be paying attention to the starting gantry now, waiting. Engine revs rising. We are go here. It was a long hold at the start there, but it's a good start. We're almost 4 wide mid-pack. Through there, there's contact already. 2-3 cars in the wall. Dan Suzuki's off there, so's Dubai as well. Oh, it's a nightmare in the mid-pack. And is that Quirk involved in all of that? No, it isn't. He's still up there at the front of it right now. It's Emily Jones and Tyson Meyer up at the front. It's 2 by 2 for first, second, third and fourth right now, because you got Boljazaza down to 4th place and Quirk to the inside. We've got moves being made in the middle there as well, Matt.
Too wide the whole way through. Yeah, I think that all started at the start from Pierre Oliver Valletta as he actually bogged down. And man, Vanthor, I think, collected one of them on the way by, but looks like he got away without damage. This is a battle. Emery does not want to give up the lead at all. The entire first 3 corners, a flowing part of the circuit, mind you, but now we're getting into that technical sector 3. We'll go through the high-speed sweeping chicane at Campsa, and then it's down to the Cuxa. That's the breaking point we have to watch, and they are still side by side.
Yes, we head on down there, and back end. The tyres are still cold here. Oh, that's a bit of an ambitious move there. Jimmy Broadbent in his mint green car down the middle of the
no, he's lost it.
Quirk's around. He's a sitting duck in the middle of the track. Hopefully everybody avoids him, which they do.
Good driving to get around him, especially because it was going to be a tap immediately into Emery. She saw it coming, she gets wide, but Broadbent, Jimmy wants to mingle at this point because he's already inside of this. He's gone through the middle, we saw him under braking, and he somehow comes out of that on the other side, leading the race. Jimmy Broadbent is going to cross the line first, in first, as Yardier sits behind, and then Emery will be back on the attack, you know that.
Yeah, and this front 3 as well have just broken a little bit of a gap. Not enough to break the slipstream, though, as they go down the start and finish straight to start lap number 2 here. And, well, Emery's got it all to do now, and she's got to try and work her way through, but Jardier and Jimmy Broadbent will not be the easiest to overtake, as we've got movement further down as well. Here's the replay of what happened at the start. And yeah, it was just 3 drivers all trying to go for the same piece of asphalt.
It was, wasn't it? And then it just, once they started chipping and cascading, like I say, Vanthor did well to get through that as he continues to run. Actually, he's down 1 lap, so maybe he had an off on his own elsewhere. Yeah, he is in the pits. Interestingly enough, maybe he did collect damage when he got clipped. It looked like the car was unscathed, but it could have bent the steering out just slightly with a front left hit, as it were. So yeah, in the pits for him, as well as for Heike 360, not ideal. And DePilio way down, 44 seconds back. The rest are all nearing, well, a bit of a battle up front. Broadbent's got a 6/10 gap at this point in time. Emery's still being held up ever so slightly by Yardier, but also want to point out that Tony Kanaan is still in this. And Kanaan, we know, is a pretty... He's a pretty bold racer on iRacing. He gets aggressive when he needs to. He looked pretty decent in qualifying in terms of smoothness. He did get a little sideways in turn 3 when we were on board, but he might be able to jump forward in this as well and capitalize on some opportunity.
But he's got Matt Malone right behind him, putting the pressure on here at the moment as they head on into turn 13. And then this tight chicane at 14 and 15. Out the final corner, and around they go. Here's a replay then of what happened down at the hairpin at turn 10, Matt.
Yeah, and this is Kirk getting just way too deep on the brakes, unfortunately. We said it's a hard braking point. You can see the lockup. It was only very fractional, likely on the downshift. Just gets a bit of rear wheel locking as he was already on the threshold for braking and turning in, loading up that rear right, stepped out. Like I said, Emery did well to identify that. She actually got a bit of a hip check from it, but was already opening her steering to actually run out wide on the curb and didn't take that much of a hit, didn't really jar her off the intended line she wanted. So came out on the other side, but lost 2 positions. And Broadbent, I'm impressed. If I'm not mistaken, Paul, and this is really racking my brain, I think he led a few laps last year at Barcelona as well.
Oh my, now you're asking. I've slept since then.
I'm sure one of his diehard fans. One of his fans will know. Someone in chat will know, but I'm pretty sure at some point he led at Barcelona last year as well.
Yeah, he certainly feels confident around here. Of course, don't forget, he did win a race last year as well, in a chaotic race last year. So he's certainly somebody who's not averse to being at the front of the field. And of course, won his split the iRacing Indy 500 as well. So he knows how to win.
I did, just to point out, just split races, and I'm loving some of the special events. I did the Bathurst 12-hour on iRacing recently. It was a ton of fun. Unfortunately, about 5 hours into the race, we had someone spin in front of us. Couldn't avoid it, but it was a hoot, and you should absolutely get involved. I just want to point out as well right now, Paul, as we see Borzazo with the greatest driving suit of all, his lovely bow tie as always, and Tony Kanaan looking pretty comfortable in this battle against him, the battle for 5th, or battle for 4th, I should say. But all 3 of the leading cars have mint on them. What's that about? Horsepower? Is this like the Honda Civic stickers? You get +5 horsepower for the mint green?
I mean, I always thought it was racing stripes that gave you extra horsepower. That's what I always thought, but
mud flaps these days.
Well, there's Heike360 just getting out the way. He's been in the wars out there. Lawrence Antor is out there on track, by the way. He is doing laps, so he has been on the pit road, but he has got back up and running here in this race. But Matt Malone, look at how much he's having to work that wheel. You compare that to Tony Kanaan. Kanaan's quite smooth with his action. Malone, he's really stabbing at the wheel and really working it hard, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just the edge of adhesion. And like I say, in turn 3, that's where you're going to get it the most in these cars. They're not super reliant on downforce or capable of generating a ton of it. They're certainly better than the 991 was. They're a little bit wider in the front end. They've got those aero scoops. You've got the swan neck wing as opposed to the former stanchions that came directly off the trunk. You've also got that little fin off the trunk. All of that adds up, certainly. But yeah, that's where you're really going to hang out the rear and start to, like I say, even short shift. I'll be interested to see what the Pest guys do. They might be just better balanced with their right foot. Obviously, that's an option, but it's the corner you're going to see the most sideways in. Like I say, you have to be so patient. The corner seems like it goes on forever. Like it feels like half the lap sometimes. It's just such a long corner.
Yeah, turn 3, you've really got to be patient, as well as this turn as well. Turn 12, you've really got to be patient on your throttle application. Really got to be careful with it. Now, look at the front 3 here. Jimmy Broadbent hasn't been able to pull away any more than what he did early on. So he's got 10 minutes, well, just under 10 minutes, to try and break out. And look at how he's just moving down the start-finish straight. He feels the need here, Matt, to try and break the slipstream because those drivers behind are in a draft train.
Yeah, and obviously we're seeing the timing updated intermittently. His delta might suggest that it looks like it was about a 10th that he already had gained on him. But yeah, he's within a half a second. He's definitely in that draft. We already touched on it. It's one of the longest straightaways we're going to see all season long, excepting 2 rather large tracks that we touch on. But it is a long straight. There's a ton of drafting that can be had and gained from it. So Jimmy's not unwise to be moving preemptively. You can certainly do that. You can't move under braking. You can't move in response, in defense, but he is well within his rights to try and break that toe.
Certainly is. Down into turn 5 then, and you can see the different lines being taken there. Broadbent with the wider line in to get the run out the corner, whereas you saw Jadier a little bit tighter in, getting into the early apex, and it all evens out here between the 2 drivers. I think Emery right now is just happy sat behind and just being patient in all of this. Is 8.5 minutes. Gamer Muscle, he's got the war hat on. It looks like here. He's certainly keeping his head warm. Doesn't have the heating on at home. Down the inside, goes right into turn 10. Well, that's a striking livery that Rye's got there, but out of turn 10, and he has to back out of it. Gamer muscle James West, he's just able to hold on for the time being, but he's under pressure right now.
Absolutely is. The whole field is quite close together at this point in time. This is, as we said, the battle for 8th place. And Rye seems like he has the pace on it. He's close enough as well that the front straightaway is going to be a pretty long journey, I believe, for Gamer Muscle trying to hold on to that position, because this is about as close as we've seen anyone. Even using all of the road on the exit is Rye trying to just get that extra little bit of a run. And here we go. He sucks in now. The vacuum is in effect. He's going to have to go defensive early, I think, Gamer Muscle. Try and cover that inside line. But you can force him to be on the inside there and hold if you're far enough back for turn 2. We've lost sight. I see a little bit of dirt kicked up. I think enough curb taken. I think Rye might have this one. He's just on the inside for 3.
Yeah, he certainly is. Dan Suzuki, well, it's a day to forget for Dan here. Dan in 11th place, trying to catch up to Maxime right now. Maxime as well, another one that's been caught up in all the early shenanigans here in this race. It's really a race of two halves, is this, isn't it? It's those that didn't get involved in that instant at the start of the race, and then the rest.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on that. I just wanted to point out, Zazo's made a bit of a gap on TK. It's about a second and a half now between them, not a ton. But in doing so, he's been putting in some pretty consistently fast laps. Last time by the stripe, 47.6 for Honzik, 7 for Broadbent, so 47.7, 1/10 slower. And then it was Zazo and Emily Jones also on the 47.6 mark. So Zazo's in this battle now for the lead. And you were saying, Emily Jones, she might just be sitting back, relaxing, waiting to see how this plays out. Well, now she's going to have pressure on the backside of that car as well. So she's going to have to be a little bit careful about how patient she is in all of this.
And we saw last time out, didn't we, just how aggressive Porsche Zazo can be in this series.
Yeah, don't let that gentleman bow tie fool you.
Yeah, he may be a dapper man in the seat, but not in the car. As he goes down, we'd go down across the line. He actually butchered that last portion of the track, did Zazo, so that moves him off of the back of Jones for the time being, so Emily Jones can just focus forward again, not have to worry about Porsche Zazo.
That's what I love, though. Like, you see Emily Jones, she's just chatting with her chat right now on the front straight, able to look over. I mean, that's why these guys are who they are for streaming and being entertaining. You know, there's this pillar of streaming, they say, or this sort of this trifecta of everyone I've talked to across esports. You've got to be good at the game, you've got to be entertaining, or you've got to be able to interact with your chat. You can pick 2. If you don't have at least 2 of those, you aren't going to make it as a streamer. And I can't interact with chat and sim. I have to be so focused. So it's really cool to see how these guys are able to be in a race this close and also still be entertaining and be the personalities that they are.
It's like me whenever I stream. I must be only one of those pillars that I can do.
I don't know if I'm any of those, to be honest.
But we have got a battle at the front here. Look at that. The focus on Jimmy Broadbent's face compared to Jardier again. Another one who's just, well, he's always smiling. He's one of the happiest people I've seen in sim racing. And he's, again, busy chatting away with his chat. With Broadbent, you can see how hard he's having to press that brake pedal. He is working hard here today.
Man, he is absolutely sweating. You can see the brakes glowing into turn 10, the hardest braking point on the track. I know that seems odd considering the length of turn 1, but it's more of a soft and long braking point when you're, you get that initial stab in and then you're trying to carry speed up the hill and into the apex. That one's a lot more of a slow speed corner, slow speed entry. But yeah, Jimmy's not communicating with chat nearly as much, is he? His eyes are strictly on the screen. I can see the perspiration. He's as shiny as that whiteboard beside him as the sweat. Yeah, look, he's wiping it away again. And he glances over, but I imagine he's probably looking at the timing delta to make sure he still has a gap rather than chat.
Oh, he is focused. He is fully focused. You can see him just take that breath before he gets on the brakes. And of course, that real world racing experience that he had last year in the Praga that he raced in, that thing it's a mini prototype, so it is quite a physical car. And he has had to really work at his fitness and his strength and conditioning to be able to race that thing in real life. And it's showing, well, I would say it's showing, but he's got a bit of perspiration there, so he's having to work hard here.
But you know what? That's probably not even so much from the physical as it is from the mental right now. That is stress sweat, we'll call it. He's got to be perfect. He's got people that are very fast behind him. We know that in qualifying, Honzik was every bit as quick as Emily Jones. We saw the gaps in the timing. qualifying, and then she's right there as well. Ever the opportunity. So you got through all that drama at the start, turn 10. But it's as much the focus as it is the physicality right now. His heart rate's probably well through the roof. This would be a cool race to as someone, especially like him, who wants to, continue to develop as a driver and is doing more real life. Get a heart rate monitor on. It'd be really cool to study this one back and just see where the stress points are for him.
Well, I mean, here's the stress point for you. He started in 7th on the grid, did Jimmy, and he's currently leading this race. So he's maybe not got that overall out-and-out pace, but his race pace, certainly he's doing a good job to hold on to the front of that. Here's Borja Zazo. Man, he's back. He's back.
Every time I see Zazo, I think that like a butler brought room service and then saw the sim rig while someone wasn't there and was like, oh, I'll just sit down and play. Like, he's just this bow tie. It throws me off. I love it.
But again, he's just a little bit... He doesn't seem to hit his marks through that final sector, does Borja, and it just loses him about 5 or 6 tenths of a second, and that's costing him the chance of a podium position right now, because time is running out. We've got enough for just over 2 minutes, so we're reaching the 2-minute warning here. Now, last time out, we would have been onto the final lap, but of course, races both here today have been extended by 2 minutes. So, they've really got to keep the pressure on and keep on pushing and pushing hard. But right now, it is Jardier putting the pressure on Jimmy Broadbent, and it'll only take one mistake from Broadbent, and Jardier will take advantage of that.
He's been inch perfect so far. Might not have the absolute pace over these guys, but he's keeping them behind and not putting the wheel wrong, and that's very, very important, is not to give any opportunity to lose the momentum and create an opportunity. And there's certain corners as well that are important. Obviously, getting through the S's right there as he did, getting up over the hill at Campsa, getting a good run down toward the breaking point here at turn 10, because this is where he could certainly become a victim, and then nailing that sector 3, especially coming out of the rack chicane and into New Holland, the final corner, and getting a clean run. Again, I mentioned this last week with IH and Gouvain when he was leading the feature at Hockenheim. Some of the lap isn't as important as others when you're trying to be defensive, right? There's not going to be opportunities created at every single corner, but there are certain corners that lead to straightaways or can create a loss of momentum that you have to nail. So Jimmy's going to make sure he focuses on those points, and this is one of them right here, heading onto the front straight.
Yep, carry the speed out the final corner. We're going to be starting the final lap of the race here, and Jimmy Broadbent has got a half a second lead right now. Although that is closing up with the slipstream, but the slipstream, it's not the strongest here down the straight, it seems. And these drivers not able to move right up behind. So Jardier needs a mistake from Broadbent, I feel. He's half a second back. Emily Jones that we're on board with, though, she's closer to Jardier right now. As you can see, currently third. Started on pole position in this race and did well to avoid that incident of Quirk. Quirk, by the way, give him credit, he's had a recovery drive and a half here, because he has got himself up into 6th place after battling with Matt Malone. So good recovery drive from Tyson Mayer. There's Jimmy on screen right now, bottom right-handed corner of your screen. Onto the brakes, into the chicane, left, right, carry the speed through there, uphill. And then this blind crest. It's a difficult corner, this one here, Matt. But right now, Jimmy, he's just got to keep his focus now.
Yeah, luckily there's a large AstroTurf runoff on the outside of that corner. So even though it is blind, you got a pretty good idea of where you're going. And it's a long straightaway after it. Get your eyes forward, get focus, hit that breaking point. And Jimmy does exactly that. Even hopping a little bit of that sausage curb on the exit. Another tricky little double apex. You can kind of open the car up in this middle of turn 12 and then point it as far forward and get ready again to head into this, the final chicane. 3 corners for Jimmy, and he will have led every lap if he can close it out right now, Paul.
Well, throughout the final chicane, he's just got one more corner to do right now. And Jimmy, he can see, he can sense the checkered flag. Look at his face. He's so happy. He's delighted with that. My goodness, what a drive from him. 7th to 1st in that race, all because of, well, one incident at the start, and my goodness, we've even had close action across the line. Tony Kanaan, Tyson Mayer, and Matt Malone were pretty close across the line as well. Rest of your field, Dan Suzuki's car, well, that's seen better days, hasn't it?
Yeah, I hope there's no luggage in the boot of that car. The frunk of the Porsche. Now that's, hey, credit to him for circulating and getting it done and still bringing that car home. But yeah, caught up right at the very, very start. I think he took contact. It was a bit of a pinball. Took contact twice and then clipped the wall as well. Got pushed out. So, hey, look, he has a chance. That's why we do the reverse grid. But this is how it finished for the first race, Paul. Jimmy Broadbent. Not bad.
Not bad at all. He didn't need a reverse grid. He got the win here in the sprint race here with Jade second and Emily Jones-Emery in third place. Rest of your field, Borja Zaza, Tony Canaan, Tyson Mayer with Matt Malone, James West, Matthew Vaca, and Dan Suzuki rounding out your top 10. Maxime, also Firmasant as well. DePayo with Idrao. Heike 360 finished a lap down, and Lauren Van Tor, our Porsche Works driver, 2 laps down. But what that does mean, Matt, is
he's on pole.
Porsche Works driver's on pole position. Exactly right.
Yeah, I would say the Porsche needs work driver, unfortunately, today. Maybe not as proficient in sim, but no, look, no disrespect to Lawrence Van Thor. The guy's a legend and continues to entertain everyone on the track. So, hey, look, he's got a chance to wrap it back up going the other way. He may have taken the damage, went to pits. I actually thought he looked clean. I did call that, but we never really got to verify, but I assumed took damage from that. But went out and recirculated it, and might have just, for him, that could be good, get a little bit more practice, and maybe now he is ready. Maybe he'll do something special here and mix it in with these guys.
And maybe doing a little bit of sandbagging as well out there. But Matt, take it away with our race winner.
Yeah, the sweaty Jimmy Broadbent. I have to say it. We were talking about it. Look, you had an awesome race, 7th to 1st, and you led every single lap.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get much better than that. I was kind of confused coming across the line at the end of that one, thinking, how am I in the lead? What's happened here? I'm not really sure. But yeah, as you say, it was a bit of a sweaty drive for that one.
I imagine we were saying as well the physicality of it. Sure, it's physical, but that's a lot of stress sweat. Your heart rate must have been through the roof the whole time because they were on you for the entire race.
It's entirely stress. I can tell you that. It's just stress. Like, now, it's not as physical as it used to be, this, but yeah, seeing so many very, very fast people in the relative behind you, you're just sort of waiting for the inevitable to happen. And it didn't happen somehow, so...
Were you, like, I was even thinking, like, oh, God, Jimmy, you're going 3 wide under braking. What are you doing? And then the seas just parted for you. It is in your mind for a second where you're like, I probably shouldn't be here.
Yeah, a little bit, but I was thinking to myself, you know, if it comes off, that's a place, you know, and it's going to be easier for me to do that at the start because I thought I was slower than the cars around me, so I thought, well, make the move now, and if if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But yeah, Tyson very kindly helped me take the lead there.
He did, absolutely. Yeah, he had a good recovery drive, but you are the champion of today. Well, essentially champion. That's a bit misleading.
Please say champion.
Okay, all right. You are the champion of today. I'll give it to you. No one else needs to take that from us, Jimmy. It was a great race.
Yeah, let's not do race 2 now, yeah?
Well, unfortunately, we have to. And you start at the back. Sorry. Congratulations on the win. You go last now.
Thanks, man.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, that's...
Reverse grid. Yeah, sorry, Paul. I was just going to say, yeah, that's the unfortunate part is he's stressed. He's exhausted from that. And guess what? Now you got to start at the very back.
Yeah, so here's our schedule then. So we're at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya right now. The next round on March the 5th will be announced after the feature race of your Porsche All-Stars. So we'll find out where we will be racing around there on March the 5th. Then we go and change car on March the 19th to the 718 Cayman GT4 for 3 rounds with Silverstone, the Red Bull Ring, and at Circuit de Villeneuve. Then we're on to the 911 GT3R, so the GT3 car at Spa-Francorchamps, at the Nürburgring, and Circuit de la Sarthe as well. And then the final round of the championship, June the 4th, at Autodromo Nacional Monza. And of course, we've yet to decide what car will be racing there. Well, we had some thrills at the start. Well, some spills at the start, and we had some thrills throughout that race there, Matt. That was a good opening race for us here today.
Yeah, look, absolutely. That was awesome. We knew it was going to be extremely close given the circumstances of the qualifying and everyone being so tight on the grid. Drama at the line, and then Jimmy sneaks through. I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I like Jimmy Broadbent, I like the guy a lot. I didn't think he'd hold on to that, so very well raced from him.
Certainly, and if you're watching that and thinking, well, how do I get a piece of action on iRacing? Check out iRacing.com today. Start your iRacing career. Every day is a race day on iRacing. And of course, do get logged on and signed up for your membership because, well, you can join people like myself, people like Matt, and all of our all-stars here as well, and all of our World Championship drivers on iRacing as well. It certainly is a good place to get your racing fix in. Let's have a look at the track map again, Matt. Anyone who's just joining us on the broadcast here, this is exactly where we are.
Yeah, and if you've ever flown into Barcelona, if you look out the right side of the plane, typically, you'll see this thing not far outside of the city. Lots of paint around it. It's usually a very visible circuit from the air. And the one thing this graphic doesn't display is the elevation change. Obviously, from turn 1, 2, and 3, you're climbing the whole time. You go back downhill as you come through turn 5, up again into sector 2, and then, as we talked about, and I'll continue to say, the big braking points and the technical slower section of the track in sector 3. So again, bit of everything. Tires, we didn't really talk about it as much. I think the tire this year in iRacing, and with the 992 having a bigger front tire than the 991 had, not as much of a factor. Is a factor, definitely is, but they're more manageable than they used to be, I think, on the 991 car, where it kind of ate them up and chewed them up a little bit harder. So it's a cool circuit. It is, and from a driving perspective, there's a really nice rhythm to this place.
Well, let's have a look at your grid then for the feature race then, and it is our Porsche factory driver Laurens Vanthoor on pole position. Sharing that front row is Xavier Hanchez, the Heike 360, Idrao, and then DePayo in row number 2 with Theo Mossant and Maxime row number 3. Row 4 for Dan Suzuki. He'll be hoping for a better start to this one with Rai sharing that row with him. Gamer Muscle and Matt Malone, then row number 5 with Quirk and Tony Kanan, row number 6. Row 7 for Bolgezazo, and our pole sitter from last race, Emily Jones-Emery in row number 7. Row 8 then for Jardier, and our race 1 winner, Jimmy Broadbent.
Yeah,
so we saw how
winner, but man, oh man, if he comes from the back now, 7 spots to make up. If he comes from the back now, that'd be ridiculous.
Well, there's the green flag. They're already racing then here at the start. There's drivers go thundering through underneath our camera, and it's Heike 360 who's made a great launch off the start here. Laurens Vanthoor on the outside into turn number 1. We're going 3 wide, 3 by 3 by 3. Will they all make it round? No, they won't. Around we go. Oh, there's 2 cars off, and I think Jimmy Broadbent is one of those involved in that one. There's another car off as well. My goodness, the drivers, they can't keep the car on track at the moment as they go through 3 into 4 now. This hairpin here, can everybody make it through? Well, Heike 360 can. He's at the front.
Yeah, he is at the front. Vanthoor's holding on to it so far, though. And if he continues on this pace and everyone continues to trip up behind like that, he's going to continue to run as they warp over each other again. Kirk's pushed out toward the wall. Gamer Muscle had nowhere to go, trying to avoid the spinning car in front of them. And it was actually, it was Wacker that went all the way back. Not to Wacker, Rai, who's had 2 poor races in a row, unfortunately, as he falls down the order, tumbling back. We saw him battling in P10 last race, but that was after recovering from getting slowed tremendously off the start. So Heike 360, bit of a gap, and Vanthoor's going to go on the brakes. Is he deep? Is he going to make the corner? Oh, he's got to lock up at the apex. And luckily, Heike 360 sees it coming and cuts back.
And look at that experience from Heike there. It's like, okay, you go thundering down the inside, I'll just get the cut back and the run out the corners. That's exactly what they needed to do. That's allowed Dan Suzuki actually to catch up to these two, because he was about a second behind. So we've got a bit of a queue forming behind Heike 360. Careful of those sausage curbs on that chicane. It can unsettle the car, and we've seen it even in the World Championship Series last year, how it just caused a spin for you out there. Across the line then, it's Heike 360, Laurens Vanthoor, and here's a replay of what happened at turn number 1. And well, it was 1 spin and then bang, contact. Jimmy Broadbent got into the side of, I believe that was Jardier.
Yeah, he definitely going to take damage from that, so he'll be running around slightly wounded. Surprisingly, Vanthoor's held on to second place. I thought he was going to be a sitting duck on that straightaway, as Dan Suzuki had an excellent run out of the last corner. And they're starting to get congested a little bit behind them, because Matt Malone is now in the mix, and Tony Kanong might be the best placed car in terms of pace to position on this reverse grid, as Zazo is right behind though, and those two had quite a battle in the first race as well.
Matt Malone ran a little bit wide out of turn 4, manages to keep his spot though ahead of Tony Kanaan. You've got Borja Zazo, Emily Jones behind those two as well, involved in this fight. Quirk, Tyson Mayer, he's not that far off of those as well, so we've got a bit of a queue. And in fact, credit to Van Tor, he's got the bit between his teeth. Maybe that practice time of just spending that time in that first race, just getting laps in, has really helped him out for the start of the second race. There's a move to the inside, Dan Suzuki. Space given by both drivers there.
Yeah, space given, and I think Dan Suzuki actually parked the bus and realized I should probably slow down a little more and let Van Thor get back into this, because that would have been quite a dive if he drove him out to the outside of the corner. So well done on both parties. Van Thor saw it coming, and the issue is now he's got to get through the chicane, and this time Dan Suzuki, oh dear. Someone get that black flag unrolled and waved. That is a punt if I've seen it.
911, yes, I think I've just witnessed a murder there, because that was always going to happen into that chicane with that type of move. It was a day late and $1 short was that one, that's for sure. But what that means is that Matt Malone now got the run on Dan Suzuki, but wasn't able to make that move in towards turn number 1.
Take a look back at it, I think, on board with Matt Malone, who is sitting just behind all of this and obviously benefits the position from it, but yeah, that's not on. That's not on, I'm afraid. And look, I called Dan Suzuki last year Mr. Racecraft all season long, and I watched some of his streams this week, and he's had a rough week of racing, but I think he could have had a little bit more patience. He had the pace. I think the front straightaway was calling his name with a draft that was probably beneficial. So somehow he survives to sit in second place, but I imagine that'll be looked at post-race. Matt Malone, therefore, in third is all over him. But what this has done is look at Heike. He's got a bit of a comfort gap right now.
Yeah, 0.8 of a second. If he can make that out to about a second, he should be nice and clear of the draft. And we've seen it so many times in races in the past that we've broadcasted that, you know, you get that breakaway at the front and you break that slipstream. Before you know it, you're able to just concentrate on yourself. You're hitting your marks every time. You're getting your lap times in, and you're able to push on and get a good explain. But well, look at this now. We've got Matt Malone on the bottom left, Tony Kanaan on the bottom right, and Matt. What we are seeing is a lot of glowing rear brakes here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, these cars do run a slightly different bias than what you get out of most cars, certainly cars with ABS. They're not as front loaded. A lot of that weight is over the rear axle in the Porsches, and therefore they run about a 45% bias toward the front. So it's not what you'd expect to see out of, say, a full GT car with ABS that can handle that extra weight in the front, or where it needs to slow down the front half of the car. The payload is in the rear, so to speak. So that's why you're getting it. And like I say, you can trail brake these things quite a bit. They do rotate very well. In real life, I know in the 991s, so I haven't actually been around a 992 due to COVID, unfortunately, at a track yet, but I've been on track with a number of 991s, and you can also use the differential as part of that. So you get the brakes to the apex, they light up the rears like you see now, and then you get on and off the power, and it's really just about rotating that car, but it's a weight distribution thing in these cars more than anything.
Yeah, it certainly is. These drivers certainly do. They get to push these cars to their limits. And if you ever get the chance to go to a race circuit and to see these Porsche 911s, the 992, then certainly they are impressive machines, that is for sure. As we go through turn number 9 there, down this back straight, it's a shorter back straight, but you get the run, and then brake hard onto the hards. There you see that brake glowing away. That's all the heat, it's dissipating. All that energy as heat there is at that brake, and that's why it ends up glowing. It glows orange, glows red for those brakes. You don't want them glowing for too long, though, or else you're going to start getting brake fade and then brake failure.
Yeah, and it's not superficial at all. You see that in real life, absolutely. In broad daylight, if you get to look straight on the side of the car, you will see those brakes glowing. It's one of the coolest things to make you sort of appreciate how much heat and energy is used in a race car. But speaking of energy, I think Matt Malone wants to use a bit of his to try and get a run, but I think Heike's also lost that lead he had. Dan Suzuki's going to try and do the same. The double draft effect makes it a little bit harder for the man in third to try and get a draft and a breaking point that's successful. But watch out, because if Dan Suzuki gets caught up in this and loses momentum, turn 3 will be calling Matt's name.
Oh, look at this. This is a great run for Matt Malone. The problem is there's not really any space for him to go into. And behind Tony Kanaan, he's rubbing his hands with delight now because he's on to this lead battle. He's wanting to get a piece of the action here, looking to the inside. Malone with that little bit of a wider line, a wider entry into the corner. Onto the brakes once again, into the hairpin lockup, big lockup for Matt Malone. That's a mistake. That's allowed TK through. That's allowed Borjazaza through. You're going to have Emily Jones looking here as well as they go into turn number 7. But no, Jones not able to make it past.
Not quite, so he'll at least recover to hold the position, but shuffled out of the line just like a go-karting race at that point. As soon as you're out, you just got to wait for an opportunity, someone to be nice and let you back into traffic. But he's also slipped up a little bit coming out of the S's, and that means Emery might have a sniff here under braking. You're right, further forward in the field. The same thing's happening for first.
Yep, so we've got Emily Jones working her way past as well. Dan Suzuki getting squeezed there at turn number 11. So business is picking up here as we're not quite at the halfway point of this race. We're onto the brakes, and Tony Kanaan now. Look at him, he's sniffing. Dan Suzuki looking for that same move he made on Van Tor, but he realised it wasn't on. And TK, look at TK. He's looking all over the back of Dan Suzuki now.
Yeah, I don't know why Dan keeps going for that. Pace and patience. He's not going to sell a dummy. He's not going to throw off the guy in front without compromising himself, and that's exactly what he's done. Heike gets a run. TK is now all over the draft.
And look, and the damage to the front as well of Dan Suzuki, that will be affecting his top speed down the straight, so that will make him a little bit more of a sitting duck. Here we are on board with Tyson Meyer then. Quirk, currently 7th place, trying to work his way past Emily Jones, and that won't be the easiest thing to do in the world of sim racing, that's for sure. I see how much the cars are moving about. Here's Tony Kanaan then. We're on board with our Vodafone on board now. And Tony Kanaan, he's all over the back of Dan Suzuki. He's putting the pressure on right now.
Yeah, he absolutely is. No question about it. Watch his mirror. Watch his mirror. Yeah, he's absolutely under pressure right now, though. Borjazo gets his nose in. I was just about to say he's filling the void for where Matt Malone was, and Matt Malone might get both these positions back if these two aren't careful. This was a rattle in the first race as well, as Zazo was ahead, but this time TK does not want to let him go, and now the overlap because it holds up Zazo just enough, and Matt Malone trying to fight back, forced to take a lot of curb. Did he hold on to it? He did, but he's lost momentum, and this is just crazy. One move, this is like exactly like a karting race. You make one move, it doesn't stick, and there's 3 people waiting to get by you.
Look at this queue of cars. It's like, well, you won't know this, Matt, but it's like a bank holiday queue with the car at the front towing a caravan thinking, well, it's nice and quiet on the road today, not seeing the queue of cars behind them right now. But Tony Kanaan, I mean, if ever you want somebody who knows how to race and knows how to win races, well, TK is certainly that man, but he's having to work hard, and that's allowed Dan Suzuki and Heike 360 to pull away. Oh, big moment through the final corner. It's held up for Zaza. Here comes Emily. Down the inside, we're going to go 3, possibly 4 wide.
How did that moment begin? Did he just do that on his own? I'm shocked that he lost the rear that easily there in the final corner, and he's going to get sent into the wall. A punt. Oh, Kirk, that's just the missing of a braking point. Completely misjudged it, and poor old TK gets absolutely speared straight into the concrete.
Exit stage left. Tony Kanaan, he's got significant damage to his car, but he's going to carry on here. But my goodness, this has been really intense. And this is all battling for 3rd place. The problem here, Matt, is that they're all fighting that hard that Dan Suzuki and Heike 360 are saying, see you later, boys, I'm off.
Man, he's been leading this whole time. The reverse grid paying off for Heike, no question about it. And, I mean, look, I'll give Dan 2nd place, but not without remembering that he sent poor old Lawrence Van Thor on vacation this race as well. So tisk to him. But, hey, look, I mean, it's entertaining nonetheless. That for TK, though, that was a brutal shunt. Absolutely, as we see it again on the bottom right of your screen, left out in the sand. Barcelona's a nice, beautiful destination, but not exactly the beach I would have picked to park inside of.
Do you know what? I've never been to Barcelona. As here goes Quirk. He's trying to make amends now, move up positions, and he's done that on Jardier. So up into 6th place. So it was Quirk who made contact with Tony Kanaan. Worth pointing out, Lawrence Van Tor, he is still in this race, and in fact has moved ahead of Tony Kanaan. So Kanaan struggling on with that damage, and Van Tor up into 10th place right now as Quirk moves up into 6th place here. Although Jardier gets the better run through the chicane, carry the speed through this final corner, you carry this all the way down, you start and finish straight. That's exactly what Jardier is trying to do now. On board with him. You just see how the cars just aren't quite gaining enough until right at the end of the straight here, Matt.
Yeah,
the slipstream just isn't that powerful here today.
Well, there's a couple of things to consider. There's been a lot of double drafting in that instance, though. Yeah, there should be enough of a gap in front of Kirk to be able to pull this back, as Quirk was able to hold on the whole way down. Heike, I was going to say, was getting the benefit of the battling behind, but yeah, not as significant as I would have thought, certainly, between these guys, because we know in iRacing in certain cars it can be extremely powerful. Now, they are on a fixed setup in this series, which means maybe they're not as trimmed out with those wings as you might otherwise get. And the reason I bring that to mind is obviously at Bathurst, where we were running GT3 cars for the 12 hours, everyone was trimming out because the draft down the straightaway on Conrad was just so powerful. So if these aren't as trimmed, it might not be creating quite that same opportunity with the high-speed aero wall.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of commentating on the first 4 hours of the iRacing Bathurst 12 hours. Of course, Bathurst 12 hours on iRacing, one of the 21 special events held by iRacing throughout the year. So those are for the whole community, not just for the pros at the top of the standings. It's for the entire community. So do get involved in one of those special events, because even just finishing one of those is an achievement in itself.
Got a split chin on the front of that Porsche, does Dan Suzuki right now.
Yeah, that looks like it's been in a boxing ring with Evander Holyfield. Sorry, I'm showing my age here. As they go down the start and finish straight. Although saying that, isn't Holyfield on about making a comeback?
I
sure,
wouldn't
read
know.
that somewhere.
Yeah,
but,
you guys are far more in tune with boxing than we are in Canada.
But this is prime example, though. That damage on the front of his car is going to be affecting his top speed down that straight. It's not going to help him any bit, but he's got to try and carry speed through corners now instead to try and mitigate that.
Yeah, absolutely. More roll speed, more momentum at the apex, and therefore carrying just a little bit when you get on the throttle, that little bit extra to try and get a run, and then again, relying on the draft. He does have the pace because he's broken away from Emily Jones right now, who's just got ahead of Matt Malone, Borzazo, of course, all that TK drama when everyone was battling for position. But it's Dan Suzuki who's definitely the one on the move. Looking back at the last lap times, in fact, Emily Jones matched him, but he was 0.3 faster than Xavier Sanchez, Heike 360, who leads this race. And as we see on the clock, there's still 11 minutes left in this.
Well, it is a Spaniard who is leading this race, and he'll be hoping to finish this race as so. A home race for him down into the hairpin at turn number 10. We go once again. It's that battle for third place. It's Emily Jones, it's Matt Malone, and it's Borja Zazo, another driver who's racing hard. And this round, at least, he's been kept himself out of trouble so far, has Zazo. Look at this Malone. He's putting the pressure on Jones. Emily hasn't got everything her own way this round, has she?
No, she coming through the reverse grid. Yeah, I thought maybe there was a chance she'd get back to the front, but again, we saw how close it was in that qualifying session. Now, just to keep note as well, Heike 360 up at the front, obviously, but Yardier was the other one in qualifying that was very impressive and was all over Jimmy Broadbent in the last race. Broadbent has recovered to 8th after that opening lap drama, getting ahead of Gamer Muscle, ahead of Anthor, and doing quite well considering. But Heike is also, Yardier is also someone who's not been able to really put a move on either. So it just goes to show how close they really were in qualifying, and track position's king right now.
I know after the opening round of the championship at the Hockenheim ring, that Gamer Muscle, that Jimmy Broadbent said, "I can't believe it, Gamer Bustle beat me." So there's a bit of friendly rivalry between the two of them. And well, speaking of rivalry, it is Jardier once again onto the back of Quirk. So still close battling out there as we go into this final 10 minutes of the race. Basically, front two are together, then third through fifth are together. You've got sixth and seventh together, and then the battle for ninth and 10th as well between Gamer Russell and Lawrence Van Tor together as well out there on track. So we've got some battles all the way through the field here, and we see this each and every time. That's a bit late, isn't it, Borja? You're never making that corner.
I mean, he would if it was the old one that we see behind him. You know, if he didn't have to make that hard left, and you know, fortunately, iRacing, he's going to slow down even, I think, for that.
Yeah.
He might have, because he's come way offline. There's no way he's missed it twice without brake failure, which is not really a thing right now in iRacing. So, yeah, I think that's just a slowdown penalty given to him for completely blowing that corner and going way off the curb, which it will do on the outside on certain corners in iRacing as well. It's not just about cutting the inside. If you gain a momentous exit, so to speak, it'll penalize you. It'll get you with the penalty. So, yeah, that's on him. Missed his own braking mark completely. Just don't know what he was thinking.
Well, it lost him 2 places is what is the outcome of all of that. So Jardier and Quirk, they say, "Oh, thank you, freebie." And here we go down in towards turn number 1, the 3 of them together. Here's the onboard then from Matt Malone, and we will wave goodbye to Borja Zazo here.
Wait for it. He's going to go by. Brakes don't work. No anchors. Straight through the 2 of them.
Got close to Emily Jones.
He
actually,
did on.
didn't
Well, I think that camera angle was misleading, because I was just thinking that too. But you know what? It wasn't that close on the other camera angle. So I think it was just the way we were seeing that. But that would have been dramatic if he took her out as well with that one, because that's more than a dive bomb. At that point, Lawrence Van Tor, as you say, still in this race despite the early dramas that occurred to him, the crimes committed by Dan Suzuki. But these guys have been battling side by side, apparently, for quite a while, as Gamer Muscle is going to concede the position. So Van Thor's making his way back through the field.
Yeah, he'll have been wanting a little bit better out of the second race, though, wouldn't he, after starting on pole position? And, yeah, that contact with Dan Suzuki, I don't think he'll be too pleased about that. But it still gets...
Interesting thing, though, is
good racing.
Well, and his lap times, they're actually very competitive this race as well. He's just gone purple in the previous sector, as well as doing a 49.4. The leaders are doing 48.6, so that's with battling on that lap. He's doing quite well. So obviously, yeah, very, I guess not to be surprised, of course, factory driver, but he's picking it up quite quickly compared to the practice that we saw. Emily Jones is closing on Dan Suzuki, 7 minutes to go, and he's frustrated. He knows he needs to nail that last corner to get the draft, and Dan Suzuki just can't quite get it.
They certainly can't, and down towards turn number 1. So we know that there's not going to be any move here, that's for sure. But he just knows that every time he makes a mistake, it just invites Emily and the rest of them. Although saying that, Emily Jones, with that little out-braking manoeuvre by Borja Zazo, has just separated Emily from Matt Malone. So that means that Malone lost the draft there, lost the slipstream, and that allows Emily to just focus forward. And it just, no matter what you're racing in, karting in real world, or on circuit racing, or even on the sim, if you've been involved in a car close behind you and then they make a mistake, it just takes all of your focus towards that car in front, and it just allows you that mental capacity to be able to push hard and hit your marks right. And you can see Emily here, she is closing this one in. We need some Jaws music. Can we license that?
Ooh. I'm gonna guess it's probably pretty expensive. So if you want to cover the bill for that one, Paul, I'm all for it.
I'm sorry, I'm saving for a house, but
Jaws music or a house. Come on, get your priorities straight, Paul. Jaws music all the way.
But what this does mean is it's just, I'm coming, I'm catching you, I'm gonna see about getting the position. But we saw in the sprint race, it's one thing to catch, as the great Murray Walker used to say. Passing is quite another.
Absolutely, but her lap times are just consistently faster by so much. 4/10 over Heike in the last lap, and greater than that to the gap on Dan Suzuki, as he had the last lap, last corner we saw on board with him be a little bit sideways and lose momentum, and she knows it. She's focused. She's not as chatty this time. A little smile as she went down the straightaway. She knows she's definitely in this now, but yeah, she's got full focus on.
Yeah, look
I
at
say
that.
she's not as chatty, and then she goes through all 3 corners, just blabbing her mouth off, being entertaining as always. Awesome to see. It's really, really cool.
I just don't know how people have that mental capacity to be able to have a full-on conversation whilst racing at these sort of speeds and dealing with a car that's not the easiest to race.
No, the weird thing is, like, I'm more comfortable doing it in the real car in real life. Like, I don't know why. I guess if there's more instinctual aspects to it, but on sim, I can't. I have to be so focused.
It's that seat of your pants stuff, isn't it? It's that being in a real world car gives you that extra sense and that extra sensation.
Yeah, but I think as well, maybe we're just so much more on edge in sim because you're pushing the limits so much.
Well, here we've got a battle 4th through to 7th, and I think that was a little mistake from Matt Malone. Through turn number 9 into 10, and Jardier and Quirk, they're trying to tag onto the back of Matt and put him under pressure here right now. No moves being made so far. That lead battle, that lead trio are together, and then we've got a quartet here. It's not a string quartet, it's a Porsche quartet right here, and makes a lovely noise as well.
Does, absolutely. One of the greatest sounding engines in existence, I would say. The Porsche format has always been impressive between flat sixes and various V8s they've had in other cars. They've always made great noises, and there's just that lovely high revving engine. I hope we never lose, but we know the industry and automotive industry is bringing in some electric noises that I'm sure eventually we'll look back and see, damn, these things were a racket.
Oh, Malone.
That's a big miss.
Yeah, very, very deep into 1. That's allowed Quirk then to get the run, but this is the problem. You get to turn 3, and you've got nowhere to go. And Malone, actually, looking at the front of his car's very similar to what Dan Suzuki's car is as well. A lot of front-end damage.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question about that. He's definitely been involved with some contact. He's also going to be on the right side of turn 5 to defend this position, but the cutback is possible here. Slow enough corner. Quirk's going to try it, but not quite get the nose in. Ooh, this will be tough. He is in now. The little kink before they head up the hill, the quick left and right, and they've got to leave room. Now, this is also going to compromise their exit onto the run to turn 10, the big braking zone, and guess who else comes into this now? Immediately, Yardier's in this battle.
And don't forget, you got Borjazazo joining in this fun as well. So we've got 4 cars here going for 4th place. It is Quirk, Tyson Mayer, who is at the front of this quartet. On to the brakes. He can carry the speed on the exit there, Matt. Hold it round the outside of 11, and look at that. Holding the inside of 12. Matt Malone, so far, able to hold off Quirk for the time being, but it's not done yet.
This is a slow enough corner with enough. Oh no! I was gonna say it's the right kind of corner that he can actually get inside far enough to lose the overlap. Well recovered, Matt Malone lost the rear on turn and tried to carry the speed, but manages to not lose any more spots, as well as lose the whole car and spin entirely in that situation. He's still struggling, catches a wheel right out on the gravel, trying to get his speed back toward the front straightaway. Emily Jones shaking her headlights in the mirror of, at this point, still Dan Suzuki in front, but she's continuing to close. There's only 1:16.
Yep, we're on to the final lap then. So it's just, well, we're counting down the corners then. We're going to be towards 12 corners remaining into turn number 4. And Heike 360 looking for a victory here, the Spaniard. Through turn 4, just gotta keep it nice, keep your lines, keep working to what you've been doing all race. You should be okay here. Dan Suzuki, though, putting the pressure on. We know that Dan will try moves into that final chicane. I mean, he managed to turn our Porsche factory driver, Lawrence Van Toort, at that one. Little lock up from Heike. Oh, Dan's had to get out of it, though. Oh, big moment there. Big pressure on Xavier Sanchez's shoulders right now. You can see his face. He's concentrating. He's looking. Where's Dan going to make the move? To the outside of 10. Oh, incredibly close, and shuts the door there. Here comes Emily Jones in all of this as well, through 11 into 12. I see smoke in the background, a shot, but we're staying with this one because Heike 360 has just got a few more corners to go here. 3 corners, hold that inside line potentially, no. Dan Suzuki locks up. That's Emily Jones through, and that means that Heike 360, Xavier Sanchez, just one more corner to go, and you are a race winner. Look at the joy on his face. A home win. There's no better feeling, is there, Matt?
Not at all. I thought Jimmy was going to be the most elated winner tonight. That is sweet from Heike. And yeah, look, the best part about that is he drove a very composed race. The battling behind. But of all the laps to be under pressure, the last lap, and it mounts so quickly against you. Oh, dear. What is Emily Jones doing on the cool down lap? Sent on the sausage curb. But, yeah, Heike with a remarkable win. And I'm glad to see him that excited about it.
And the shock, I think it's just sinking in, isn't it, as to what he's done out there. And my goodness, what a drive. What a defensive drive, though. You pointed it out there. Under so much pressure. And able to hold on to that win. That was fantastic. So we're going to head on over then to our Buzz post-race show here and take you through your results, your unofficial race results here for the feature race. And well, Xavier Sanchez, Heike 360, the Spaniard himself, home win, takes the spoils here. We're ahead of Emily Jones, who had a good drive, took advantage of Dan Suzuki's mistake at the final chicane to take second ahead of Dan in third place. Tyson Meyer-Quirk, well, he had fun out there with Matt Malone and Jadier and Porsche all finishing 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Lawrence Van Tor then, our Porsche Works driver, ends up finishing in 8th place ahead of James West in 9th, and Idrao down in 10th place. Maxime Theo Santa with the 11th and 12th places, and look at that, Jimmy Broadbent 13th. He will not be happy with that after his race win in the sprint race. Right, 14th ahead of Tony Kanaan. Oh, what could have been for TK, and then DePayo 6 laps down out of the race.
Yeah, I do feel for TK. I think you're right on that one. I think his pace was there. He was racing fair. He was being very polite in both races about his position, and just got absolutely smoked out of that one. Jimmy, you're right. Look, he won first race, got taken out at the very start of that, so was never really in contention. But yeah, TK, that's a tough one because it is a championship, Paul. And after last week at Hockenheim, or last race, I should say, we mentioned Emily Jones not really on the normal game that she brings to the table. Well, she still leads now with this weekend's drive out of the way.
It's only a 5-point lead, and Tyson Meyer-Quirk certainly doing a sterling job, newcomer to the championship, and stamping his authority on it as well. Borja Zazo just 1 point behind in third place. There's Lauren Heinrich, didn't take part in this race at all, and yet he's still in fourth place, 8 points off of the championship lead. Dan Suzuki ahead of Jadier with Heike 360. Great result for him to move him within 18 points of the championship lead. Matt Malone, Jimmy Broadbent and James West is your top 10 there. Well, I do believe we can get to speak to some drivers out here. Matt, take it away with our third place driver, sorry, Dan Suzuki.
Yeah, it could have been second place. You just rubbing that one in a little bit for him, Paul, because that last corner, that chicane, first off, you sent a Porsche factory driver, okay? I don't know, you might have to write an apology for that one, but you were constantly trying to make moves under braking in that position.
It's a great opportunity to overtake, to be honest. I had worked last year. Channeled my inner max there, sent it. On my screen, it was a ghost contact. There was a little gap, but yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, well, listen, Lawrence isn't here to talk about it. He was somewhere way back at the back of the field, thanks to you. No, I'm kidding. Look, it was a good race otherwise. You had the pace. You had Emily behind you catching, but what was going on? You couldn't quite get Heike, because when we were on board at one point, I even saw you look frustrated coming out of the last corner because the draft wasn't there.
I don't know, like Heike is so strong after the chicane, like the second part of the chicane and then the last corner. He always gained like what felt like 7 seconds. I couldn't stay close, and I had one opportunity, I think, where on the chicane, like the first send, but I was like, it was in my head. There was a contact and I just couldn't do it again.
Yeah, we saw you back out. Was the damage a factor as well in the straight line speed? Because the front of the car was quite bent in.
On my side, I have no damage at all. Like, car looked
okay.
perfectly fine.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, because there was cosmetically, it looked pretty. It's pretty
Okay.
beat up. But hey, look, you get the podium. It sucks that it happened in the last corner to lose another spot, but it was entertaining. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Emily Jones, this was an interesting race from your perspective as well, because the first race I think could have been a win. Is your mic working? You got it there?
Yeah, it's working.
Oh, okay,
Sorry,
I wasn't sure. I saw you
quiet.
dialing. I wanted to make sure you could hear me. No, but first race could have been potentially a lot more. You got kind of boxed out. Then in the reverse grid, you're coming through the order, and right at the end, you were starting to catch them. But it was a bit of a shuffle throughout the order the whole time. Pretty exciting racing at Barcelona.
Yeah, it was actually quite good. It was really difficult to pass, which I found kind of interesting in the first race. Like we were just kind of stuck there in a holding pattern, it felt like, for the race. But we had pretty mad first laps. Like both races had crazy first laps, and that second race really just like it was nuts. Like this car's making really good racing. It's a lot closer this year, and it was a really good race.
It was good to watch. The draft wasn't as much as we thought it would have been. Obviously, you guys are running the fixed setup. Were you surprised by that as well, that the long straightaway didn't give you more opportunity?
Yeah, it was interesting because in qualifying, it was a huge difference. I reckon it was like a couple of tenths in qualifying. But look, I couldn't tell. I was saying it on stream while I was driving. It felt like I was in the aero push, like I was losing front downforce when I was stuck behind another car. But I couldn't tell if that was just because I was driving badly when I was behind another car, or if I actually had aero push. So
it's an interesting point, because there is more front aero on the 992 than the 991 had last season. So maybe that is something that is a factor that I don't know that I would have thought of going into the race either. So kind of interesting, especially with that many cars running together. But you did get a gift in the last corner from Dan Suzuki. Is he on the Christmas list for that one, giving you another position?
Yeah, it was. I felt kind of bad for him because I was like encouraging him on my stream. I was like, have a go. Have a love, have a go at the final corner, and he did it. But then he ended up kind of gifting the position to me, which was unfortunate. But I'll take those. It's freebies, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, you're leading the championship again. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. Am I? That's good. Okay, cool.
You are. I can confirm that you are.
That's good.
Well, good race. Awesome. Tyson is going to be joining us now as well in our interview room, we'll call it. What is this Bob Ross shirt?
Bob Ross is amazing. Okay, you got to stay calm and happy thoughts.
Was there any happy little accidents out there for you today?
There were a few embarrassing ones. Yeah, just a couple.
Did you maybe miss your breaking point and send an IndyCar driver into the wall at one point?
Yeah, maybe. Let's not, nobody needs to see that again. I think we should all just delete our streams.
Yeah, well, tell you what, I already screen capped it, and you have to pay me off if you don't want to. How was the race from your perspective? Because you were in the battles the whole way through.
It was great. I had a blast. The first lap of the first heat Emily was fantastic. I unfortunately kind of panicked at the end there and on the first lap and lost it under braking, but that was a fantastic first lap. Came back, got a few spots back, and then the second race was fantastic. And then Tony just braked like 300 meters early. It was unbelievable. I don't know what happened, but it happens. It's weird.
Brake lights didn't come on.
Yeah, these things happen. So
yeah. Look, I'll look the other way and pretend it never ever did happen. It did, but we'll pretend it didn't. So good job. Listen, it was entertaining as always. And one of the other guys on track that was entertaining, Matt Malone, never ceases to give us something to watch. A little bit of side by side action, getting up over the curbs there on the last lap with Quirk as well, and nearly lost out to Yardier, who got involved in that battle.
Yeah, that was insane. I'm running off a T-Mobile 5G home modem too. So when I'm really close to someone like that, I get really worried. So, but nothing bad happened. But yeah, no, that was some of the best close racing that I've had in a while. But at the very end of that second race, I ended up getting a slowdown. Wow, I was sweating pretty hard there because I was up into third or fourth there for a minute.
Yeah, the order changed quite a bit in the mid pack. I'm sorry to hear about the modem, but it's nice to see your cameras mounted correctly this week. So one thing at a time, maybe. How exciting was Barcelona from your perspective? Because it is a track that sometimes can be a bit stale in terms of actually overtaking.
Yeah, going into it, I'm like, Barcelona. I'm like, it's a very technical track, and if you don't have thousands of laps here, it's going to be tough for you. But a little bit of practice, and then after race one, I got a little bit more comfortable. The chat was letting me know, like, hey, you can cut that other corner a little bit better there if you want to. You're not going to get penalized. So I'm like picking up some little tips here and there. But yeah, I kind of grown accustomed to it. It seems to be. I think the more and more you race, it probably get better. But wow, yeah, that ended up being a lot more fun than I thought it would be.
It was great to watch you to the last chicane. It was unfortunate you lost the brakes a little bit, but I'm glad you didn't go all the way around and managed to at least get back into position somewhat. The man who was right there knocking on the door, though, and Matt Malone, thanks so much. Yardier, you were all over that battle, and I'm sure just licking your lips. There was no chance to really get involved, but you were waiting for the opportunity to arrive.
Yeah. Like, since we had a little incident with Jimmy in the first corner, I had a little damage on the left ear. So the car was not willing to turn to the right-hand corners, and which was very crucial on this track. But in the end, I was really hoping to have a good fight with Quirk and Matt Malone, and it almost worked. It almost worked. We had a very nice side-by-side several times, and almost 3 wide in the end. And yeah, it was interesting. It was good. I really was not looking forward for today as well, because I was very worried about incidents and such. But in the end, I had really good 2 races in the end.
Yeah, awesome to watch. And it's just as fun, I think, for us watching you guys who get to sort of enjoy this. But I love to see the intense rivalry between you guys, because you're all friends and you're all doing the same thing. But you still want to win, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, obviously, I wanted to go forward, but the net code, and obviously this is not my main game as well, so I'm a bit I don't want to just send it to someone and crash him. So I was over too much careful several times, which I think is definitely taking away a bit of fighting. But I'm glad that I'm trying to take it safe as well at the same time.
You might have been one of the only ones, so we appreciate that. There was a bit of contact out there today. I hope. Well, thanks very much, and we can't wait to see you in the next round. The next round, Paul, coming up very soon, we are going to be discussing, because we don't yet know which track that's going to be. And we'll get to that shortly as well. Oh, we just had a little preview. Was that Max Benica on screen, maybe? But, there's lots to talk about.
One of our World Championship drivers there, just a little sneak peek of what they're up to as they prepare for their championship race. Well, we know where we are today, which is the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Next time out, though, on March the 5th, well, we found out exactly from our votes. The fan votes here, Watkins Glen didn't get much love, neither did the Hungaroring. It was a close battle between Long Beach and Interlagos, and in the end, it was Interlagos that won that vote here. So race number 3, round number 3, is going to be held at Interlagos. So the drivers haven't had much chance to practice and get themselves ready for that one. So thank you everyone who was involved in that vote and took the time to vote and make their voices heard. The fans who decided where our Porsche All-Stars and the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup drivers all head out to. Well, it was an instant packed race in race number 2 of this championship. The Porsche All-Stars, they're done and dusted. Congratulations to Heike360 and Jimmy Broadbent for their respective wins. Stick around though, because coming up on the hour, it is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup round number 2 from Barcelona. flag in the air. Away we go then, and it's a good launch from Dave Warren off the front row of the grid. Charlie Collins slotted in behind him. The man he's chasing is Charlie Collins. Bottom left of your screen there, you can see the focus and concentration on both of their faces. It's Dave Warren at the front. He's led from the drop of. He celebrates because it's the opening win.
The first on-track action in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup for 2020.
Green flag, away we go. It's a good start from your front row. Sarika's from Y. Booth loops through. I can tell you the top 16 are covered by 7 seconds. This is absolutely incredible. It's just a queue of cars, and they're all playing this high-speed chess with each other. Sebastian Job, our 2020 champion, comes head on. This is what we get every season in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
Oh no! Dane Warren's just got another one as well. He just got an incident limit. It's the off tracks that are catching them out.
Well, it is the final lap of the race. Teammates, Pinto's off. He's got a bit of a hit check from Warren there. Graham Carroll, look at him. The focus. He wants that slipstream from Jeremy Bootloop. Now, these two have battled over the years, but look forward because Ayashan Guvan, a man who has never had a podium in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, is coming across a race winner here in the feature race. Absolutely tremendous drive from him. Green flag, and we are off for the sprint race in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, round number 5 at Road Atlanta.
$200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? For immortality. This is Esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we saw the opening round of the championship from the Hockenheim ring. Now we stay in Europe and head on down to Spain and Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya for round number 2 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Paul Smith and Sadakis here once again, as always here, Matt. And, well, the All-Stars, they gave us some thrills and spills, but now it's on to the World Championship.
Yeah, this is it. This is the big one. And like we said, this track in the past has given quite a bit of drama. You go back 2 years ago, Sebastian Job, I think we ended up on his roof at one point in time. Last year, Max Benica was well down the order, had a good battle back, but not without contact and some penalties post-race. So it's been a track that's been challenging for a number of the big names in the series, and I think that's absolutely something we'll see again today. It always comes down to turn 10 on the opening laps where it seems like there's some contact inevitably as they're just so tight across this whole field. And this year's no exception. Some incredible rookies as well. And we saw out at Hockenheim in the first week.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Maximilian Benecker, the last time he won was right here at this circuit in 2020. Here's what happened in our All-Stars event then. So this was the start of the race, and there you see Quirk just going around. People avoided him, thankfully avoided him there, but it was a good opening race for the sprint race here, because Jimmy Broadbent, you see him at the front of this queue of traffic, was able to hang on and take victory in that sprint race.
And both of the races, in fact, is, yeah, there you see Minty Boy, Jimmy's lovely Porsche 992 Cup car, coming across the line first. But both of the races were a bit of fortune, I think, for the leaders, is when we got into this feature race as well with the reverse grid. Heike 360 got out to the front after another bit of chaos off the start. More early drama. Unfortunately, Jimmy Broadbent was caught up this time, as right there, just as we cut away from the camera, he made contact with Yardier, and then there was some more shuffling down the order as Gamer Muscle tried to take avoiding action and then actually had to run into Quirk. But poor old Lawrence Van Thouwer, our Porsche factory driver, our guest racer this week, taken out in the opening laps despite having good pace in the second round, the reverse grid favoring him. But again, it was Heike that had that early start, and Paul managed to hold on to it just like Jimmy did.
Yeah, certainly did. And we saw as well with this just how tricky it is to overtake. Here's the mistake from Quirk into the back of Tony Kanaan. Kanaan just hitting the brakes just a little bit earlier than Quirk expected it to. Bolgezazo, another one, finding that that middle pedal, you need to press it a little bit earlier into turn number 10. Then we saw the battle of the North Americans, and Bolgezazo getting into the back there of Jardier and turning him around. But it was Heike 360, Xavier Sanchez, a home driver, to get a home victory, and he was absolutely delighted about that. But this is where we are then. 16 turns around this amazing Grand Prix circuit. 4.6 kilometers in length, opened in 1991 for the Spanish Grand Prix, which was won by Nigel Mansell. That famous shot of him and Senna going down to turn number 1 with the sparks flying. There'll be certainly sparks flying in these races today.
Yeah, I don't think it'll quite be from the skid boards. It might be from the bumpers rubbing against each other as everyone battles for position. It might be from emotions that flare as a result of it. As we say, this track always dramatic in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. And I do like Barcelona a lot from a rhythm point of view, from a technical point of view. Again, we mentioned it during the All-Star race. It offers a bit of everything. But for some of these guys, it's going to offer a very stressful day as well. Now, one thing we did notice during the All-Star race, mind you, they're on a fixed setup, and the cars might not be as trimmed. The draft was not as much of a factor. Emily Jones even said that in qualifying it was, in the race less so. And of course, that's because you're in a line of cars as well. It's less effective if the guy in front of you also has a draft. Now, for them, they had the open qualifying and had that advantage. As you can see now, as we jump on board our qualifying session for the Esports Super Cup, these guys have the isolated standard iRacing solo qualifying laps. So it is absolutely a difference that I think is both good and bad. There's no one that's going to get in your way, but you don't get that draft, and maybe there's some strategy that could have gone along with that.
Well, there's Sebastian Job, who had mixed fortunes last time at Hockenheim for the Red Bull Racing Esports team. And of course, brand new sponsor coming on board for them as well. Oracle stepping on board to support the team as well. So not just for the Formula One outfit, but also for their esports outfit here as well. So great to see big sponsors coming on board here in the world of esports, and the more that we get to these events, then the more that we'll see those sponsors come on board for it. There's the race format then. 9-lap sprint race after this qualifying, which Sebastian Job down towards turn number 1 isn't really pushing that hard at the moment. The top 8 are inverted for the feature race, an 18-lap race then for the feature race. Drivers just preparing their cars, making sure that the tyres and pressures, the tyre pressures are all up to where they need to be here, Matt.
Yeah, tires and pressures isn't wrong either. There's a lot of personal pressure that goes on in these qualifying sessions. Sebastian Job did put a tweet out earlier saying that, his qualifying pace and overall race stints have been going on a little bit better at Barcelona for him. He's a little more confident in his position. Obviously, he was a victim of drama at Hockenheim, as you said, and that was our opening round. We find ourselves here now at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and as you just talked about, Paul, we're heading to Brazil next time out, March 5th. That's just around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of weeks' time for us to head to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. And, well, good luck me pronouncing half the corner names is all I will say about
What do you mean? You can't say 1, 2, 3, and 4?
I'm a traditionalist. I like tracks with corner names rather than numbers, but that's just me. But yeah, we then head on over to Silverstone the rest of the season after that as well. But that first third of the championship, I mean, it's only 4 weeks until we've reached a third of the championship already. Well, if you're watching this and thinking, I'm liking the look of iRacing, thinking I might want to try it out. Well, currently there's 40% off of all new memberships. So check it out, iRacing.com. Head on over to there and find out how to start your iRacing career. And as my fellow colleague Evan Pasoko usually says as well, every day is a race day on iRacing. And certainly you can have a lot of fun.
There's a reason why Porsche's hashtag that goes along with their esports campaign is Never Not Racing. It's not just about the real world tracks where I'm sure there's a Porsche on a track at any given time anywhere in the world. It's because in Sim, you literally can be Never Not Racing if you want to. There's so much that goes on iRacing. I'm sure we'll get to the standings and the table in a second, but I do want to touch on some of the rookies for this battle for the season. Obviously, Aichin Guvan leads the overall, but for rookies, Cooper Webster, I didn't give him enough credit. We talked about Red Bull now with Oracle coming in and joining that team. They've also brought in a third driver to accompany Graham Carroll, who is our star of arguably the features race at Hockenheim, getting that last lap move to finish second on the podium. But Cooper Webster had a 9th and a 5th, leads the way with 46 points. Unfortunately, it puts him quite far ahead of someone who I thought was actually the standout. Quintin Villate was so good. 5th in the first race, but contact took him out. There was penalty points applied for that. Oscar Biscarud is in second. He has 30 points right now, and he's the youngest ever World Cup license holder on iRacing, and just by a few months, as there's also a 16-year-old this year in the field in Kamil Grabowski.
Now, let me not be the pedant that I am, but I'm going to be the pedant.
Do it.
We actually had, in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series, we had a driver who was 13 and got a podium.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I was misled. Maybe it's just the road licenses, but that's
on the
cool.
road
That's
license,
awesome.
definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Very, very cool either way that, you know, some of these youngsters are just so capable in sim as well. And Oscar Biscarud, second place in the Norwegian Karting Championship, so no stranger to success.
Well, we're going to be, the times on the left-hand side there are not really representative because drivers are sort of preparing their laps. But now Alexander Wolters then, he missed out round number 1, but he's here for round number 2. And he's going down towards turn number 1. This is his flying lap. You get 3 laps here in qualifying. So these drivers have basically spent the first 2 flying laps actually just putting more temperature and more pressure onto those tires, and really they're leaving themselves with just a one-shot qualifying here, Matt.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. That's spot on, and it puts pressure on it. You're doing so much effort to get the car prepared, and then it's very easy to blow a braking point, say turn 10, maybe just lose the rear a little bit in turn 3 and not quite get things executed perfectly. But these guys are the professionals. They are for a reason. And as you mentioned, Alexander Wolters didn't make it out, by the way, as we look at there he is, Quintin Villate. The white wings and window banners indicate that he, in fact, is a rookie. So if you're quickly glancing at the field today, that is the easiest way. And there you go. You see it for Alessandro Bicco as well to identify those rookies. Now, you mentioned Alexander Wolters not out last time. Interestingly enough, Paul, he's not last in the championship despite not having any points. Salva Tollins received some penalty points, as too did Matti Sipola, and actually sit negative on the table right now. So they'll be trying to make amends for that. Matti Sipola had a poor first race, got taken out right at the start. Then the second race was actually making ground, but also ran into some contact there.
Yeah, it goes to show that, you know, if you cause an incident out there, you will be punished if you're found guilty for it. Dane Warren, our sprint race winner last time out, and of course the man who put it on pole position at Hockenheim. Pressure on him after his mistake of accumulating too many instant points in that feature race just meant that he couldn't finish that one off. Sebastian Job coming towards the end of his lap now. So we're going to start seeing some of those quick times coming up. Quintin Villate sets the marker. Now Matti Sipola. Here comes Sebastian Job across the line. What's his time? 44.2. The times are going to come thick and fast right now. The 93 across the line. Charlie Collins, where does that put him? Zach Campbell's currently on pole. No, forget about that. Here's Charlie Collins. Now Dane Warren to the top of your standings right now. This is going absolutely just thick and fast. Aichin Guvan, of course, set a personal record in getting his first podium in winning the feature race, comes across the line. And Pinto now goes to pole position. My goodness, Matt, these times are just coming in thick and fast, and it's hard to keep up with who's on pole.
Yeah, remarkable. I mean, it's always so close. One guy who definitely needs better qualifying today has to be Max Benecke. He's been so good in so many races. We know how strong he is, but very poor in Hockenheim. Started down the order. He had the same problem here last year. So watch for him to try and improve, but this is as close as you'd expect. Dane Warren and Diogo Pinto, that is lovely. Diogo Pinto as well, moving over to the Red Bull stable this year, was a rookie last season and was already very quick at Hockenheim. And I have a feeling he might be the surprise package of the season and really make a name for himself at the front half of the field, front 5, maybe even in the championship.
Matt, I think you've moved him enough for teams because you said Red Bull, not Red Line. But
Red Line, I'm sorry.
I know what you meant. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He's moved into that team and he's really made a name for himself. I mean, he sort of set his marker last year, didn't he? With his performances in his rookie season, and then to come in here and really put himself at the front of the field, it's been tremendous to see that from Diogo. Dylan Lombardi we're looking at the moment, another one of your rookies out there for the Williams Esports outfit as he goes through the chicane at 7 and 8. So there's plenty of drivers who we've seen who are really trying to get the early points and the early marker set for this season to really progress forward as the championship goes on. So Pinto Warren, your top 2 right now, and I can tell you from pole position all the way down to 29th, covered by 1 second. I like to bring that up each and every round because it just goes to show how tight our championship is out there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's so great to see. It really, really is. One make series are always, separating drivers and men from the boys, so to speak. But this is even better than that, than even in real life. So close all the way through. I mean, those gaps are absolutely foolish. 0.5 all the way down to 20th, and actually beyond that, all the way down to 28th. That's how close they are. And we know this track, it's hard to pass, but it's all about staying in the train and finding the opportunity. So yeah, the other driver I just want to point out is Zach Collins with, Josh Rogers not being here this year in the championship, looking at other challenges, as well as Mitchell DeYoung. He was a guy who was very good as a rookie last year for Coanda, and I think they'll be looking to him for some leadership within that team this year as well.
Yeah, Charlie Collins has done a fantastic job coming in as everyone's a youngster compared to me, to be honest, in this championship.
That's not what I thought you were going to say. It is true, but it's not what I didn't want to agree and call you out before you finish your statement. I'm sorry.
Well, he is 3rd on the provisionally on the grid. We'll be able to give you your starting grid in just a few moments' time. But my goodness, Matt, I mean, we've seen how we've lost some drivers this season. It's giving other people opportunities up there. We've seen a little bit of a mix-up at the start of this championship. It's great to see for us.
Yeah, it's awesome, and part of the reason we're seeing some of those other names at the front of the field as well is because of the drama. Sebastian Job getting knocked out of the order at Hockenheim has put him down the table a little bit further. Alejandro Sanchez actually did the fastest lap in the second race. Another guy who had a horrible qualifying, was battling back through the field. So watch for some of those regulars to return to the front as well. But yeah, super solid performance from a bunch of guys that really last year were sparse, shall we say, or inconsistent about delivering highlights. They had their moments, but weren't putting a full package together. So if they can get that going this season, you're going to see an amazing championship.
Well, we will get to see your pole award, your Tag Heuer pole award, and it is Diogo Pinto then with his first pole position of 2022. Finds himself on the front row of the grid, shared with the pole winner from last race, Dane Warren. They're the front 2 on the grid, so congratulations, Diogo. We'll be keeping a track of that pole position award from Tag Heuer all the way through the season. Of course, get yourself a Tag Heuer connected watch for a prize for that one. But let's go through the rest of your grid then. It is Charlie Collins with Alejandro Sanchez in row number 2, Zach Campbell and Jamie Fluke. Great drive from him up into row number 3. Yeah. Row number 4 then, it is Gianni Vecchio with Maximilian Benneker, Pete Berryman, Jeremy Bootloop, Kevin Ellis Jr. there as well. Looking further down your field, Sebastian Job 16th on the grid, Cooper Webster 17th, Graham Carroll down in 20th place, and some of the others as well. Bobby Zelensky down in 24th, Marina Sarica 27th. Not a good day for them. Jordan Caruso, who's just moved in to the Altus Esports HQ out there in Australia. He's moved into the Altus house and he's found himself all the way at the back of the grid. But the drivers are all set then for the start of the sprint race here in round number 2 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Pleasure to have you all along here. We're going to see some tremendous action on screen. Drivers looking to the starting gantry. The revs rise. We're all set for 9 laps of racing here in the sprint race. Green flag drops, away we go. It's a good start from the front row for Pinto and for Warren. Rest of your field coming past your screen right now, but down towards turn number 1, look to the inside. It's Dane Warren from second place on the grid. He's going to try and make the move on the inside. You can run it around the outside of turn number 1 if you're Pinto. Pinto's holding that position for the time being, keeps himself in front and slams the door shut on Warren. It's Charlie Collins, Alejandro Sanchez, Zach Campbell, Jamie Fluke, with Gianni Vecchio in 7th ahead of Max Benneker. Jeremy Bootlup 9th with Pete Berryman 10th as they head into turn number 4. Still 2-3 wide all the way through turn number 4 right now, heading into the braking zone at turn number 5. Well, one man who said he was hoping for a good race and a good round here at Barcelona was Jamie Fluke. He's found himself in the top 10, but he's got Vecchio trying to go around the outside of him.
Alejandro Sanchez, oh man, I thought for sure he'd be in the leads of the 2 battling he's with right now, the 2 VRS cars, but Charlie Collins did a brilliant job to hold on the whole way, and Alejandro Sanchez makes the decision to fall into line because you don't want to be battling 2x2 coming up the hill. And now down to where the drama normally starts, Paul. The big breaking point, and Alejandro Sanchez has to watch out for the second of the 2 VRS cars. Zach Campbell making a move, but 3 wide further back, and there's the contact. Inevitable.
Yeah, there's a car around, well, there's multiple cars around by the looks of things. Well, I'm sure we'll get to see who was involved in that. I think Marina Sarica was one of those cars. I saw a Williams Esports car involved in all of that. They're going 2-3 wide further down your order. Biko getting bullied out of the way there further down your field. To go through the chicane, there's a car around, it's Jeff Giassi, and it's all carnage at Barcelona here on this opening lap.
Yeah, no way by. Clips another car. I didn't catch who it was in time that hit the wall, but absolutely, it's the last half of the lap. You've got such flow, such speed, and at the front, perhaps a change as well.
Oh, Pinto trying to make that work through turn 2, but it's not. And Charlie Collins, he's sniffing around. He's thinking that there's a possible lead here on the line for him. Of course, Charlie Collins, his best result was a 2nd place. So he's really going to try and go one step back, one step further up. But Pinto can hold that outside line here. And he's got the inside line for the next corner. Look into the inside of Warren. Warren left the door open. You don't need to invite Pinto twice.
That is really well done by Pinto. He tried to open the entrance to turn 4 and actually get the momentum, but he actually nearly let Charlie Collins in as a result. And around goes Dane Warren, our victor in the first race of the season at Hockenheim. And the man who started P2 leading this race at the early stages is gone, and he is going to shuffle all the way to the back.
You saw the carnage in the bottom right of the replay of turn 10 from lap number 1 as well. Big one, Vecchio! Oh, he's missed his braking and collected the VRS car! That's Charlie Collins! My goodness, what on earth is happening here today?
That was a huge mistake. Not only did he lock up, but to try and avoid everyone, he heads to the inside wall, he clips the grass. He has absolutely no stopping. Diogo Pinto's just gone at this point. Can't imagine he'll stay up here for long with the draft train behind him. But man, what just happened? He was 2nd place, he was side by side, now he's gonna look at his mirrors and everyone's gonna be a speck in the distance. This is drama. It's always that tough breaking point of turn 10.
Well, let's take a recap of where we are at the start of lap 3. It's Diogo Pinto, the Portuguese driver, who leads this one. 2nd place is the Spaniard, Alejandro Sanchez. Jeremy Bootloop, great start for him. He's managed to avoid all of the incidents. He started in 10th place, is up to 3rd place now. Max Benneker as well, up to 4th, with Pete Berryman 5th. Zach Campbell in 6th, and there's the...
Did he get tapped? He did get tapped. Teammate. Yeah, so that's not on him. We only caught it as he was into the breaking point, but yeah, he got tapped by his teammate. That got him out of sorts, and then he could do nothing about it. I thought it was odd he was that far onto the left. Like that again, in sim, you're not going to get that brake failure. It's not something that iRacing includes, per se, in sort of their simulation for a reason. I mean, it's not something you want in real life. Why include it? So in real life, when you see that, you see people dart to the inside because they have so much speed. They'll even try and brush the wall, and it looked visually similar to that. And I was trying to figure out why he was so far to the left, but that's why. That contact is kind of ridiculous. And we'll get another look at it, I think, as we're just being, Beneka's on board. That this is, I mean, Max Beneka, that is, 100%. He just absolutely misjudged that, sends his teammate flying, and it's just a bowling ball at that point.
And he forced his way past Zach Campbell in all of that as well, did Max. So that's how he managed to get himself up into 4th place. I'm sure there'll be an apology after this sprint race here today from Max to his teammate.
You know what the crazy part is? You know what the crazy part is about this, though, is we talked about poor qualifying. So, okay, Max Beneka is definitely going to get looked at from scrutiny, and penalties can be applied after the race. Pinto's trying to break draft. He's 1.1 seconds ahead, but doesn't want any chances. Beneka's had a better start. Sanchez, P2. Those are two guys I highlighted for having poor qualifying. Well, today, the man who was way back, despite saying that he was doing so well in practice and had the confidence, was Sebastian Job. Started 17th with Cooper Webster. They're running 10th and 12th right now, so massive gains already from the Red Bull stable.
Yeah, absolutely. Graham Carroll as well has gained positions for Red Bull. Out of all of that, down at 18th, though, he'll want more than that. But right now, 8th place. And remember, your top 8 are inverted after the end of this race. It's Kevin Ellis Jr. Now, this is somebody who does know what it takes to win in a race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Remember, he won the opening round of the championship last year at Interlagos in the feature race. So he knows what it takes. And if he can get that reverse grid and manage to get the jump at the start of this one, he could be looking at some very good points. But Johan Haaf, 9th place. Sebastian Job, 10th. Ayachan Guvan, our feature race leader from last time. He is in 11th place ahead of Cooper Webster as well. And Gianni Vecchio will be on a bit of a mission to try and recover as much as he can.
Yeah, no fault of his own, as we saw. So he definitely won't be pleased about that, trying to recover. Sebastian Job's on the move. He's also tracking down just in front of him, Johan Harth. And I want to give you guys an indication of something, just to give perspective of pace. And I'm sure lots of you guys are on the service and can respect how quick these guys are and how beautiful these cars are as well as the circuit detail. But the All-Stars we had are good drivers in their own right. Some of those guys have 4.5, maybe beyond that I rating. They were doing 47s in qualifying, 48s to 49s in the race, and high 47s. These guys at the race pace right now are doing 45, low 45s all the way through the field, which is absolutely ridiculous pace to be racing at with this much going on around you. So these guys really are the creme de la creme of the sim racing world.
Yeah, and Alejandro Sanchez, again, another person who actually challenged for the championship back in 2020. He was the first ever Spanish driver to win a iRacing World Championship event. He is looking for a home win. We saw Ike 360 in our own All-Stars race get a home win here. Well, Alejandro Sanchez, he would love to get that, but he's under intense pressure from Jeremy Burtloop, who we're keeping a track of all the way through this season, because of course Jeremy did announce, as we mentioned last time out, this is his final season as a full-time professional racer. He's going to go back to the real world, as he put it, and get himself back into a more regular 9-to-5 job. But I tell you what, Jeremy might be, if things go the way they are so far, he might be thinking that twice.
Dane Warren still running after leading the opening lap and being involved in that battle and unfortunately losing out in the chicane. I want to make mention of him for not that reason. Unfortunately, it's not what I was going to bring up. I was hoping to be speaking of him while he was still battling at the front, but obviously our sprint winner in Hockenheim came over to join the Coanda Esports Hub, which is now where they're racing out of, as opposed to the Purple Room and the Coanda House in Gronau, Germany, for the virtual Le Mans 24-hour, and has been there since. And the reason I bring that up is normally he'd be back in Australia right now in his own rig, but he's showing incredible pace in the championship. And I know it's different circumstances and travel restrictions that are prohibiting from going home, but I'm starting to wonder if he wants to stay there, because he's been really, really good so far in this championship. Just bad luck today. And Look, I was going to bring this point up either way. It's unfortunate he's had that hit incident happen already, as I do.
Oh, contact for Thomas Tetela with Gianni Vecchio. Vecchio's got that damage to the front. I think that's affecting his top speed because they were side by side down in towards turn number 1. Around the outside, Charlie Collins is trying to recover, and Tetela, yep, he got a slow down penalty from cutting the inside of turn number 2, and he's got Dino Lombardi alongside him as well. Heading in towards turn number 5, can Lombardi keep it there, the Italian? Well, he's pushing and he's keeping it there, and he's got the line for the next 2 corners, but Tetela just trying to stay ahead in the cover. Esports driver doing a good job of trying to not lose any more positions. Although that was a bit of a hip check.
Oh, that's not ideal. He's gotten forced off. I was just going to mention he's one of the well-placed rookies. He was the second-place rookie in this race so far. Cooper Webster in 12th, by my count, is currently leading that battle. But yeah, that's an unfortunate hip check indeed. Is down the order. Lombardi will fall. In fact, all the way down to 18th from 12th. So let's get back on and going. But he's in a whole other battle pack at this point in time.
And it just goes to show as well the experience so that you mentioned about the top rookie being Cooper Webster in 12th place. It's the experience that's showing here of working in the packs around here, especially at this track on the opening couple of laps. It's knowing where and when to look for that space to try and get yourself up positions. And right now, it is those experienced drivers who've got 1 or more seasons under their belt that seem to be showing their hand here and really push on hard.
Well, we're joined now inside of our broadcast booth by an unfortunate victim of some early contact, Jordan Caruso. Tell us what happened at the start of your race today.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I got a DQ in qualifying, so I had to start from the back. But I was feeling pretty positive about my pace, and I knew I just had to keep my nose clean and try to make some positions. But unfortunately, yeah, I had a really good first part of the lap. I think, made a lot of positions, stayed out of the carnage, and then just got really unfortunate going through that second last corner. One of the cars in front of me had spun, and I feel like I picked the right lane from what I saw, but the way he spun was just really unfortunate, and I got damage, and yeah, got the meatball flag, so it's a sprint race done.
Flipped and collected into the wall. Look, it's a competitive championship. As an Australian, obviously, there's been some very successful drivers come through here. Josh Rogers comes to mind. Dane Warren today as well was running near the front and has already had a victory this year. What sort of expectations do you have? Obviously, VRS on your jersey, those guys provide a lot of support, but what are your ambitions in this championship overall?
Yeah, I mean, I guess being my first year, my main priority is just to keep learning, keep getting better. I'm not expecting a huge amount in terms of results at first. I know I have the potential to be up there when I put it all together, but the lack of experience does make that really difficult, especially when you've got so many guys who are just, at the top of their game. But yeah, I definitely think, top 10s, being able to get into that invert top 8, that's really the goal. And hopefully not have to re-qualify for next year and then give it a real go for next year.
Well, all right. Well, hopefully things go a little bit better in our feature race today, and you can get some laps in and maybe battle up the order. Thanks very much, Jordan.
Thanks.
Paul getting close at the front. Diogo Pinto had that gap after the early dramas and managed to sneak away to a gap of 1.1 seconds at the time. It's back down to 0.3, and I mentioned that he was trying to break draft earlier. Well, you can see why he was this time. Sanchez is on the move.
Yeah, Alejandro Sanchez has got the bit between his teeth. Of course, changed team this winter over to Apex Racing Team. And those drivers, of course, he's not racing from the Apex facility. He is certainly back home in Spain, but he's literally been biting his lip. He's been concentrating so hard. Normally when a driver concentrates, you usually see the tongue come out. It's just that much of an uncontrollable thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a story about that I'll get to in a minute, because this battle, I think, is going to be more important and pressing than the time in which I have to deliver that, because he is all over the back of the Team Redline driver. So close you can read that tiny little font. There it is. Look at that, man. He is just smelling the tailpipe of that Porsche, and now Sanchez is going to be in the draft for sure coming out of the final corner.
Well, he needs the good run out of this final chicane. We are going to be starting the final lap of this sprint race here at Barcelona. Through the final corner they go now. carry the speed out that final corner. Diogo Pinto going defensive, trying to block, or trying to lose the draft, but Sanchez is staying with him. He's getting closer and closer. I don't think he's close enough to make the move, but there are other opportunities around this track. Turn number 5, I think, is one of those opportunities. Turn 10 as well, another one. And if you're really, really on it, turn 14, although we saw in the All-Stars how that can all go wrong. Pinto just running that little bit wider. Sanchez feeling comfortable to hold that inside line a bit longer.
Tough because there's not enough of a breaking point in turn 4. He's managed to hold it tighter to the apex, though. Now, this comes back, remember, to a decent breaking point, but a left-hander, and Pinto places the car. It's a long enough corner. Can he get a switchback? No, not quite. They'll use the whole curb. I think this comes to turn 10, and that's going to be it. Sanchez will go for everything.
I can tell you further down your order, Collins and Vecchio have switched positions, but right now it is this battle at the front. Diogo Pinto for Team Redline. It's Alejandro Sanchez for SDK Gaming. Out of turn 9, that's the crucial one. Carry the speed, and again, looking to break the draft in towards turn number 10, breaking. No move made there by Sanchez. Is he thinking a longer game perhaps and thinking about the championship? Because through 11 into 12 they go now. Pinto, he's just got to hang on for another 4 corners here in this race, and he will have the victory here in the sprint race. But Sanchez, look at how close he is to the back. He's going very defensive, is Pinto. That's going to make him slower and compromise his line through the chicane. If Sanchez can get a run, he can maybe get a chance, but no, it's not going to happen. So it's the Portuguese driver from Team Redline, Diogo Pinto, who wins this one across the line. We look back further down your order as well. Johan Haaf and Sebastian Job finish outside of your top 8, so it's Kevin Ellis Jr. who will be on pole position for the feature race here. Rest of your field running through. It got close at the end there, but just wasn't going to happen. So that means Diogo Pinto gets the win here today, and that also, I could tell you, is his first sprint race victory here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. It's Portugal 1, Spain 0 in the sprint race ahead of Alejandro Sanchez. Jeremy Bootsloop rounding out the European top 3 with his 3rd place. Max Benneker, and the rest of your results you can see on screen here. You're looking further down the order. Charlie Collins, he'll be disappointed with 13th out of all of that. Go a bit further down, Jeff Giassi, 25th. He'll be gutted with that. Dane Warren, 29th as well. And those drivers that did not finish there, Bobby Zelensky, Salva Talens, David Williams, Jordan Caruso, and Matti Sipola, your 5 drivers. And Matt, I believe you've got our 2nd place driver from race number 1.
Yes, who had a much better qualifying this week, Alejandro Sanchez. No doubt more pleased with the results. 2nd place in this sprint race. Bit of drama. Dane Warren around you gets spun off early. Pinto gets ahead. You had Charlie Collins get pinballed behind you, but you held on and nearly had it at the end. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, really happy with how we performed. We managed to get a clean lap in, and a really good one at that, or at least I thought it was. And then, I didn't want to be so far up ahead for the feature, but things happened, and we finished P2, and I didn't want to risk either too much with the O. I need the points for the championship, so it was more of a holding on race, and but I think looking promising our pace for this race, and really happy with the work of the team and with how we've worked this week.
Just talk to me about that championship mention. I know it's round 2, but obviously this year there's a few guys that normally are at the front not running. 2 years ago, you were 3rd place, and you were very close and very involved in that battle all the way through. Last year, there was some bad luck. Do you see this as maybe the best chance you've had yet for a championship?
Probably 2 years ago, it was a really good chance, but I think I'm a little bit more mature now in terms of driving and a little bit smarter. But this year might be in contention, should be the easiest, but there are some new guys that came in, and some guys that really got fast over the last year, so it's like really similar to last year, to be honest. So
all right, well, good start today. I mean, 2nd place, that's not bad at all, and you'll be in the mix for the feature.
Just gotta hold on and stay out of trouble in the future.
All right, well, good luck, Paul. We'll talk about that one a little bit more as well, because obviously there was quite a bit of contact. it's always about the fact that you get to turn to sector 3, excuse me, and everyone's still so close and in their battles, and all of a sudden there's just not enough space, which does affect the championship overall.
Yeah, it certainly does. Diogo Pinto then 23 points clear of Heuer and Guvan, with Jeremy Bootloop just 1 point behind him so far. Alejandro Sanchez and Graham Carroll 4th and 5th places ahead of Cooper Webster. Your 2020 champion down in 11th place, already 61 points back. That is not the start to the season that Sebastian Job wanted here, Matt, and he'll be hoping for a better feature race here.
Yeah, no question about it. Look, he was 10th place here today. Could have easily, with 2 more positions and a bit of luck, I could have easily. There's a universe out there somewhere where he's on our reverse grid pole, right? It's just the battle of close and opportunity in PESC. But today was much better because obviously last time out it was contact that put him that far down. So his season is already in recovery mode. Speaking of, what a start we had! This is down the field where they were already 3 wide, but someone else who now has to go to recovery mode, who was in 2nd place in the championship coming into today, Dane Warren. Oh my goodness, look at all the contact.
Yeah, I think we don't have enough time to show everything that happened. This is a big one though, and Gianni Vecchio out of control, nowhere he could go. He tried his best to thread the needle and it just didn't quite pan out. And Charlie Collins, the innocent party and all of that. There's that little hip check then that Dino Lombardi got. And then right at the end here then, we thought it was going to be close between Sanchez and Pinto. And Jeremy Bootloop was just loitering with intent for the bag. There you see Johan Hart and Sebastian Job across the line. So, you know, we've seen how close this championship is and how close these battles are out on track. Contact and instants like that will have a huge effect on people's championships, and we're seeing that already with people like Sebastian Job.
Well, and massively, and I just was, you can see me glancing to my right, and that's who I want to talk about. I misspoke. He was not in 2nd place coming into today. That was Diogo Pinto, who obviously won the sprint race and now leads with a decent gap at the top already. Dane Warren did win our first sprint race and was inside that top 6 placement, so he is someone that will be very disappointed to have been shuffled down the order, as well as Charlie Collins, who is hitting that. Those are some big names, and it's consistency in a championship that will win you the overall title. And sometimes when you're at the front in those dramas, there's a few under the radar names that go through, and one of them today in the sprint race was IH and Guvan. We didn't even mention him. He was our feature winner last time out. Still sits 2nd in the championship. Had a very quiet race and just went about business. And the business done today at the office of the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya.
I know that there's one motorsport journalist who on Twitter will hand out an image that says shows all different pictures of different types of officers and says these are officers, not a car or a track.
I like that.
But this is where these drivers are racing at. It's a twisty technical track in places. It's also a high speed track in places as well. You said it in our All-Stars show. It's where we've got that mix of both worlds. It's a real all-rounder track. But let's not dilly-dally. Let's get on with it and get on to our feature race here. And look at that, it's an Apex Racing team front row of the grid. Kevin Ellis Jr. and Jamie Flip with Zach Campbell and Pete Berryman, another Apex Racing team driver in row number 2. Max Benneker and Jeremy Bootloop row number 3, with row number 4 shared by our 2nd and 1st place drivers, Sanchez and Pinto. Hart, Job, Guvan and Webster round out row 6, with Charlie Collins, Gianni Vecchio, Graham Carroll, Oscar Bickford, who's getting a little bit bullied out there, Dino Lombardi, Jack Sedgwick, Violate, Lockwood, Kaita, Sonnen, Bika and Sarika, and the names just keep on coming. I mean, Dane Warren way down there, Bobby Zelensky, David Williams as well. He'll be a little bit gutted with how things have gone. So, feature race coming up for you now. Drivers getting themselves prepared for this one. It's the feature race in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Green lights on, away we go. Nice launch from the second row of the grid. That was Zach Campbell, who got a good start. He's looking to the inside of Jamie Flug. You've also got Kevin Ellis Jr., Pete Berryman involved in there. Max Benneker looking to try and make some moves right now as well from the third row of the grid. But Zach Campbell, the former Apex Racing Team driver, trying to make it into the front two places right now. We're going 2-3 wide through turn number 3 here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So far, so good. No incidents out on track, but the worst is yet to come here, Matt.
Yeah, some stacking at the back. It looked like Caruso, who we spoke to in the first race, starting at the back due to that DNF, had to take a bit of avoiding action and stomp on the brakes halfway up the hill, but no contact. That's the main thing. Apex Racing, just an absolute cluster of cars at the front, and they'll be loving this so far. Max Benneker's already up a few spots though, and we know he's aggressive. We're into the feature now. There's no saving it for the second race. This is on 3 wide still, and as you say, the worst is yet to come. Even some cutting of the chicane there, because people had to and get out on the grass as they want to hold momentum. This is going to get tight.
Yeah, this is going to get a little bit messy. I have a sneaky feeling here down the inside. Oh, no! Around VRS. That's going to wipe out 2 of your drivers.
It's the same driver. It's the same driver that got hit last time.
Oh, that rejoin wasn't the best as well. Oh my goodness, it was a VRS car that was out of control.
Charlie Collins, the same guy who got hit the same way in the first race. He lost it this time. I didn't see what started it. Just as last time, Vecchio, we thought he was all on his own. He may have been tapped, Collins, but he serves revenge in a dish he did not want to be a part of. That was ridiculous. And Sebastian Job again.
And I can tell you, looking at my timing screen, Alejandro Sanchez, the man who finished second in your sprint race, is all the way to the back of the field, and he's going onto pit road. He is done for today. It goes from joy to despair for Alejandro Sanchez. There he is on pit road right now. Wow. And wow, I think...
I see why F1 switched away from going to that corner format last year. I've never liked the turn 10 braking point. You get so much momentum. You have so many sweeping corners that promote racing and overtaking and have the space for it. And then you jam on the brakes and everyone thinks they can get their nose in, and everyone's nose ends up out of joint usually. I would love to see Pes go back to the sweeping corner there. That's just my opinion. But there's so much drama there every single time.
There certainly is, and I think carnage is going to be the word of the day here today. It's been chaotic, the carnage on lap 1. Lap 2, well, let's see. Let's hopefully keep everyone on track here. Just to give you a little bit of a recap then, it is still Kevin Ellis Jr. who leads this one, 0.8 of a second ahead of his Apex Racing teammate Jamie Fluke, and then Zach Campbell in 3rd place as we head into turn 10 once again. Here's another look.
We need to see it. Yeah, we need to see this. So again, there it is. I think there was contact, and I can't see it from that angle and that far back as to who it was. But what are the odds? Is the same guy who got taken out at that exact spot in the last race, who's the protagonist in this one, is Charlie Collins just gets absolutely sent into an unavoidable incident, and this time it takes out even more drivers. Like you say, you got the the second place man we just spoke to, Sanchez, gone already, and he's already mentioning championship, consistency, getting in there. Sebastian Job caught up again. He's well down the order. This season's wide open. This season is completely wide open, and I think we've got some young names that are going to be making their best case forward. Benneker's in here right now. Ellis Jr., he's a fast driver with his own right, but we might have a change for position at the front.
Oh, down the inside then, Gianni Vecchio trying to recover. He can't quite get past Brian Lockwood. Lockwood, he has got some experience in this championship now, and he's feeling a bit more comfortable. Changed teams over to Urano Esports. Vecchio with that damage to his front right. He's suffering down the straight, although he seemed to do well, but Lockwood seems to be a bit of a cork in the bottle here, because Jack Sedgwick, he has had an absolute nightmare couple of seasons before, as there goes Vecchio down the inside, a little bit of a bump, and away they go. But Jack Sedgwick, a driver who's had a terrible 2 seasons, and well, let's have a look at another look from Oscar Bixford's car then on board.
So left side screen, oh, it's the Red Bull car. that pushes him into the spin. It's the Red Bull car that pushes him into the spin. 21, Graham Carroll, and it takes out Sebastian Job. So Graham Carroll starts that incident as Oscar Biscarud was just on the right side of it all, manages somehow to get past it and get away, but still had to get on the binders and is well down to 17th because there was just an absolute traffic jam in front of him. But just like last race, Benica hits his teammate into a spin. This time it's worse for Red Bull as opposed to Redline because Graham Carroll takes Sebastian Job out of contention.
Drivers who have been onto pit road, Josh Thompson, Dane Warren, Graham Carroll, Charlie Collins, they're all still sat there. Drivers who have actually come back out onto the track, though, Johan Harth and Alejandro Sanchez, so they've been able to get somewhat of damage repaired. They're hoping that there's more carnage happening in this race and that gets them into the top 25 to get themselves any points.
And credit to Alejandro Sanchez for being back on the circuit, and you know, it'd be easy to just tuck your tail and leave after today as we look on board with Jamie Fluke and Zach Campbell battling for third place at this point in time. But yeah, it's what he said. It's championship. It's long term, and into the top 25. 1 or 2 points here and there, we know can make a massive difference.
Kevin Ellis Jr. is trying to make a breakaway at the front. Jamie Fluke has got damage to the front of his car, so he's going to be impaired by all of this. And Zach Campbell, well, it's a battle of former teammates here. Jamie Fluke, you can see in that bottom left, he is in the new Apex Racing Team facility that they're still putting together. It's great to see these teams getting these team houses and team facilities put together and to work together as a team and basically live and breathe these events and these championships. Max Benica, well, he looks nice and calm on the exterior, but I think he's going to be like a duck on a pond. The feet are going away like crazy under the water.
Yeah, swimming for survival. At this point in this race, just trying to stay out of the wars will get you a good result, and Benica's done a good job of it so far as he sits back and has a great view of a battle going on in front. They are slowly catching Kevin Ellis Jr., still a second gap, but he on his own does have to deal again with a draft pack trying to catch up, so I imagine that will close over time. We are only on lap 5, the start of lap 5 as we go by the stripe this time. And just to point out, Lombardi and Cooper Webster, 6th and 7th. And that's a recovery from Lombardi getting hip checked last time. Those are your first place rookies in the field. There's a string of rookies. Now look at all those white window banners in a row. There's 5 or 6 of them down the order trying to battle it together.
Well, I said in race 1 about how it was the experience of those drivers who have done multiple seasons in this championship who did well. Well, it's now the rookies who are saying, okay, we're going to play this way. Let's have some fun.
There's quite literally a pretty much all rookie race going on from 14th back to 18th. You've got, let me see in there, you got Sam, Katrutz, Alessandro Bicco, Camille Grabowski, Oscar Biscarud. So you got a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old going at it. And then behind you've got other big names, Mario Soroka, Salvatolins, Thomas Tetela, and Diogo Pinto, way down the order from where he was after race 1. And remember, that's our championship leader. It's early, but we have to consider championship. With this much drama going on, it's context that counts.
Yeah, and of course, if you are new to watching the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, and you're wondering, well, how do I tell these rookies apart? You can see the white banner on the windscreen, the white number plate, number board on the side, and also the white rear wing. That tells you that driver is a rookie in the series. There's 10 rookies this championship here this year, so plenty of fresh faces competing out there in this field. I can tell you as well, Alejandro Sanchez is back on pit road, so I think his day is done. And Bobby Zelensky as well is in pit road as well.
Apologies, I didn't even count 2 other rookies in that. There's 2 in front of that. You've got Julian and Quinton in there. So there's even more in that rookie train that we just showed as we look back to the front of the field. Just to note as well, another guy we talked about being quiet today, Chen Guvin, sitting in 11th place at this point, is just in front of all those rookies, but still in an okay position for points, which is something you have to consider as well when Dane Warren, not his day, taken out and spun in the first race and now in this one back in the pits. So lots of damage on some cars out there, Paul.
Yeah, it can have a huge thing. And there's your drivers who have been involved in multiple seasons of this championship. They've got the black banner on their windscreen. They've got the number boards as well, which are black, and the black rear wing as well. So that's how you tell the difference between those drivers. Brian Lockwood, 9th place. He lost the position to Gianni Vecchio. He's now got Jack Sedgwick behind him. And Sedgwick has got to say a very hard charge in Ayachan Govan behind him as well. Although saying that, he's not really moved any positions in this particular race from where he started. There you see Sedgwick, bottom left. You've got Govan in the Coanda hub on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Those two battling hard. Sedgwick is a hard charger, but so too is Govan. Look at that, getting that perfect.
Do you want the story now? Watch Gouvin's tongue. Watch his tongue when he gets into these motions. You can see him under braking. We were talking about this earlier with biting your lip, the focus. The story I had is actually about Ayachan Gouvin and watching him in his sim rig. And Mitchell de Jong, who's done some rallycross, and his father was there in the studio and said, man, Ayachan's got to be so careful he doesn't bite that off. Apparently, Mitch had an incident landing a jump where he did bite his tongue, and it was a huge issue. And I asked Ayachan after this, I said, has Porsche ever brought this up? Is that a danger? He says, I have to wear a mouth guard when I race. He said, I tried to put my tongue in my mouth because they told me to, and I wasn't as fast, so I chose the mouth guard instead.
Well, mouth guard works, certainly saves the tongue, but down into turn number 1. And it's now Govan having to do a little bit of defensive work against Jack Sedgwick. Sedgwick is somebody who's very experienced in this championship. He is an ever-president. He's competed in every season of this championship, so he knows what it takes to race in this series. But the last few years, he's had to re-qualify. So he's had to do it the hard way here, and yet he still finds himself in the championship. And it's good to see him up in the top half of the field here today.
Yeah, and speaking of the requalifying and the relegation, a great result for him right now would do a lot to keep him out of that position this year. As we look at our highest placed rookie, it is one of the only, well, the only of the 3 Red Bull cars that wasn't involved in that early drama. There is still some context, so I might have got caught up a little bit in that, but obviously Graham, the one that started it all, and Sebastian taken out, he now somewhat flies the flag for the Hallmark team in the new Oracle-sponsored Red Bull car, as sits in right now 6th place.
Yeah, Dino Lombardi not that far back as well, but he's looking forward at this pack. And Kevin Ellis Jr., that gap has actually closed up a little bit, hasn't it, between him and Jamie Fluke. So Kevin Ellis Jr. hasn't been able to run away at the front quite like how he would want to. It's Fluke kind of playing the defensive role for him, doing a little bit of a blocking move right now just to try and keep Zach Campbell, Max Benneker, Jeremy Bootloop all behind. So it's great to see those 2 Apex Racing Team drivers working together out there on track. And they're certainly doing a sterling job for that outfit. Looking further down your order here now. And really, you've got Alessandro Bico there, Dennis Grabowski, Oscar Bixrud that we're looking at right now. He's got Marina Sarica behind him. Sarica, of course, caught up in that lap 1 instant down at turn 10 in the sprint race. He's trying to make a recovery drive here in this feature race. He's got a few drivers in front that he wants by.
Bit more calm now. We'll have a chance to enjoy the order for a moment, because not as much drama on circuit as we hit lap 8, about the midway point in the race. We were at Hockenheim, as you mentioned in our opening race, Paul, and we moved south. That was the term you used, correctly so geographically, and that means we've also had some hotter temperatures. So tires today will be a bit more of a factor with a hotter track temp. The grip levels will be down slightly from what they would have expected to see at Hockenheim. So let's see who's been really crafty and patient to have a late charge in this race.
Well, I can tell you that our conditions, it's actually mostly cloudy, and the track temperature is only 26 degrees, so it's actually quite a cool track. So these drivers will be able to push those tyres quite hard, actually, although these long radius right-handers really do abuse that front left. It is absolute murder on the front left, as you see Sarica and Tetela in this queue of traffic right now. Bixrud wait for a move. Is that a little bit of a rookie mistake to make the move into the chicane? Because now he's really now having to go defensive. Sarika and Tetela trying to force this one.
And Sarika's actually going to try and get involved. I thought he might try and bump draft and just establish the order and box out either of the two drivers. In this case, Piscaru does get the run back down the straightaway. That's going to leave the exposure behind 3 wide as well. That's tight, and it's a stack of cars in the mix with all of this. You've got the car 44 trying to push his way through. Who is that? That's one of the red line cars.
Pinto.
It is Pinto. Yeah, that's why I thought it was Pinto. So he is getting in the mix. That's a lot of positions for him to gain right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's lost 13 positions in the race so far, but he's in 21st, so he's in points-paying positions right now. So he's trying to minimize the damage to his championship. And we've seen this time again of when a driver Pinto to the inside. He's certainly been aggressive, isn't he, Matt?
Yeah,
he's really pushing the boat.
That car's still got pace, and I hesitated to say it was Pinto because I was surprised he was this quickly in the mix again. I know we're looking down the order right now, but the point is, if everyone's going to stack up like that and he starts picking them off one by one, if he can get up inside the top 15, it's like you say, there is good points-paying position still on the line for him.
And remember, he went into this feature race with a 23-point lead in the championship. So it's not the worst day in the world if you can recover some of those positions back here. But at the end of the day, if you're wanting to put on a championship fight, you want to get as many points as you possibly can out of every race that you go to. So Pinto, recovery drive into 20th place now. I can tell you that your biggest position gainer in this race was actually 3-4 drivers: Thomas Tetela, Salva Talens, Jordan Caruso, and Matti Sipola. They have all gained 11 positions in this race. Dino Lombardi in your top 10 has gained 10 places. But let's have a look at the front here then, Matt. Fluke has just, again, settled back about 3/4 of a second behind his compatriot Kevin Ellis Jr. at the front. So it's Jr. and then Fluke with Zach Campbell right behind and Max Benneker loitering as well. Benneker wants to get some points here and get himself a decent result.
Does indeed. Just to note, Sanchez, we did mention he was still running. He's now 6 laps down, so he's had some more issues, or he's just decided the pace wasn't there after the repairs in the car. This battle at the front, as we turn our attention here, Kevin Ellis Jr., that gap has stayed. It was a second, on lap 3 or 4, so it stayed pretty decent. I mean, it's come down a little bit, but not as much as I would have thought considering the draft behind, and he's looking pretty comfortable out there. He's almost got a bit of a smirk on his face, hardly a sweat on his brow at all, and yeah, just a pretty comfortable day as long as he can keep it clean up there so far.
Yeah, Jamie Fluke is certainly doing a rear guard role right now, and he has got Jamie Fluke behind him in the camera shot there. They're out of that Apex Racing Team facility, brand new facility, and so far the early going is showing that it's paying dividends so far. There's Fluke and there's Ellis Jr. in the back of that shot.
Yeah, it's one of the first looks we've had into this new Apex establishment in the UK. One of the teams that are very much moving in that direction. Obviously, Team Redline would like to do that with Atze Kirchhoff in Holland, and at his Sim Pro facility, where we know Kevin Siggy races out of. It's not part of PESC, but a top sim driver for, I'm sure many people watching would know. It's becoming more the norm, and it's cool to see Apex taking this leap, and obviously they've got a number of drivers in this championship between Ellis Jr., Fluke, both at the front, Alejandro Sanchez, that are real protagonists and could even be at the front for this championship at the end. Kelvin Ellis Jr., I feel like we've done a disservice not talking about him so far this season enough, because he last year for me was if you give out an award for most improved driver, would have gone ahead and taken that easily.
Well, he's just been progressively improving season upon season. He is another one of those ever-present drivers. He had his highest ever championship position, finished last year in 4th place. So he has just seen that progression go through the years here in this series. Here's Zach Campbell then, the former Apex Racing Team driver who's now driving for Coanda, currently in 3rd place, he's driving for VRS today. Apologies, getting my teams mixed up there. But yeah, Zach Campbell in a good position right now. He was an impressive rookie last year, I thought. He really did look good at times. Didn't all go his own way, but certainly moving to Coanda must be working out for him.
Yeah, I think so. And he's he does still race out of the U.S. He's still based at home, the American driver, but has already been over as well to the Coanda Esports Hub and has done some engineering as we look back to Lockwood and Sedgwick as I combine their names.
It's been a long day for you, to be
Yeah,
fair.
it's all right. It's fine. We're all having fun here. I mean, it might be Lockwick if they come to blows because there's not a lot of space between them right now. Maybe they'll combine the cars and the names. But no, he's got the draft as well. But Zach, I think, is very happy on Coanda and was already doing some race engineering for his teammates. So he's integrating himself in many ways and taking it as a learning opportunity with that team. Here's the move. We saw the draft being set up, not quite enough overlap. So just barely holding on. In fact, losing the momentum now is Sedgwick. He's got to be very careful not to give up a position to the rookie behind.
Yeah, that's Quentin Violate who's behind him. Manu impressed at Hockenheim and course until he got involved in that incident down into the stadium section. And Cedric's been turned by Violate. That was never on, was that move there, Quentin?
Not at all. And he had great turn in. Maybe he just thought he could sneak in behind. Didn't expect Sedgwick to quite come back across so much because he was, having a sniff at the guy in front. But yeah, that's on him. He has to be more responsible in that situation as the following car. And no question about it, Sedgwick is the victim of a rather unfortunate crime in that situation.
And that's the unfortunate thing as well particularly with this design of car as well. It's a rear-engined car. So once you get turned, it just rotates like a pendulum. Here we go. Here's the onboard for Violate. Yeah,
you know what? Yeah, he got in too deep. Yeah, I thought maybe he saw something in the fact that he was braking a little bit deeper in the car in front and thought he could just kind of hold the line and waited for an opportunity. I don't think he ever thought he was going for an overtake, but he definitely misjudged that braking point and turn in.
So many drivers who have been caught up in instance in this race. Well, Sebastian Job is the big one for me. Down in 26th place right now. Of course, Charles Collins, Graham Carroll, both retired, as well as Dane Warren, Alejandro Sanchez and Josh Thompson all out of this race. Jack Sedgwick now is the last point-scoring driver in 25th place ahead of Sebastian Job.
It's unfortunate because you just touched on it, that he's had to requalify a number of times, and one good result can keep you out of, or at least take pressure off of being in that relegation position. So, yeah, that hurt. That hit hurts more than you think in that regard. So unfortunate for him as we look once again to a number of the battles on track. 3 different stables involved here, and I know we talk a little bit about teams. It's important to note if you're newer to the championship as a viewer, it's not a teams championship. There's a discrepancy in how many cars from each stable are actually in the race, so it wouldn't exactly be fair in that regard in terms of point scoring. But the teams still do have a lot to do with it in terms of supporting each other. We saw the Apex House, we touched on that, Coanda, the Esports Hub, Redline with all of their experience, and even Red Bull, who only have 3 drivers, they rely on each other in practice. So it is still a team sport, despite that it's not scored that way, and it's why we try and keep track of it and give you that context.
Yeah, certainly, and it plays a bigger part in this championship than anybody really imagines, that's for sure. And we've seen it towards the end of seasons as well, when championships are on the line, and how teammates can help each other out to a degree. There are rules that you're not allowed to actually just move over and let somebody pass. So it has to be done legitimately on track.
Yeah, put your bias all the way to the back, go into the corner, hit the oh, gee, I spun actually. Wow, no, I'm kidding. That's something I would do.
Well, at the front, Kevin Ellis Jr. doing a sterling job up there. He is now 9/10 of a second ahead of Jamie Fluke, his teammate. And these drivers, they're working together at the front of your field. And Zach Campbell just not able to work. Look at all the drivers then. This is all the drivers involved in this race, or at least a selection of them. But you can see just how all the drivers have got different setups. They're all working hard, and the different levels of focus and concentration on the faces here. It certainly it gives us a great insight. These drivers giving us that camera. It's a great insight into these drivers, what they do in these races.
Yeah, and the different emotions on their faces, the way at which they all go about the same sort of operating standard, but different mentalities to get there. It's very, very cool to watch. No question about it. I just thought of a funny story going back to the whole brake bias, I spun thing. There used to be a great excuse in sim racing when you had someone behind you on a straightaway. We're going to see a move potentially from Quintin Violetta again. Doesn't want to get his nose in twice because he'll definitely get a talking to post-race if he does. But yeah, you used to, you know, when you flash the headlights, right? You'd have your pit lane speed limiter just beside that. And you had someone behind you. Just pop that pit lane speed limiter for a minute. Oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. You know, I've seen that excuse used a few times.
Well, certainly I'm a man of honor, and I've never done that myself. So that's maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Well, speaking of trying hard, though, Quintin Violetta for the R8G Esports team, of course, the Romain Grosjean owned team. You can see them on screen there. Then Violetta just pushing hard, focused. Brian Lockwood, I mean, maybe tidy up your desk next time, Brian, but still, he's not focused on cleaning up his house. He's focused on his racing, and it's certainly helping him here today in 10th place.
Yeah, it certainly is, and he's got a bit of pressure, though, from behind. Quintin Violetta is going to make a move this time into turn 1, so draft beneficial. We've seen them go side by side already once in this situation. In fact, last time we saw it happening with Jack Sedgwick, so Quintin trying to do the same, but that's twice now we've seen Brian Lockwood defend the outside successfully in 1. It switches back for 2. Not done yet, though. Quintin looking inside. Now, this is not a huge breaking point. It's a sweeper. It's a trail breaking corner, which means exactly that. They can both carry good speed. That one's 50-50. I got to see a different camera angle before I even think about it. I'd call that a racing incident. He was definitely in there. And Brian, no harm, no foul. He's right back in line and right back on it.
Yeah, he's pushing on and trying to fight back against Quintin, but Violetta maybe just open the steering just a little bit just to help himself around the corner maybe, but Lockwood, he won't give this one up without the fight. And Sonnen as well, right behind Julien Sonnen, doing a sterling job is the Frenchman for R8G Esports. Of course, rookie driver as well. He's behind Lockwood. Lockwood to the inside. Can he make that move? And he's going to squeeze Violetta as well. He said, okay, Quintin. Oh, that's a bit rude.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that is unfortunate between them. I don't think it needed to go down that far. Sure, it was a bit forceful from Brian, but he was returning what he gave. That might be a huge issue, and I think Brian Lockwood might be gone from the race at this point in time.
I think he's still going. He's showing on my
timing
screen.
Okay, I thought he went grey on mine for a moment.
Well, he's certainly showing on my end, but Violetta, I think he might be getting a visit from the stewards. It might be a little bit of, let's come have a quick chat and discuss your incidents. But everyone, don't worry, don't panic, you're not missing anything at the front. They're staying as they are, so this is why we're looking further down in your field. But what this does mean is that Violetta now, ahead of his teammate, 10th and 11th places. Alessandro Bico right behind for Williams Esports. These are 3 rookie drivers out there, and Sam Kiter actually behind, also a rookie driver in all of this.
Kiter's had a decent race, hasn't he? He's been quiet in this, but he's been consistent.
Well, saying that, Thomas Tetteler is just, you give him the kiss of death there. Thomas Tetteler has gone down the inside and taken the position there. So, well, let's have a look at the replay then and see, what's your thoughts on this then?
I mean, this was fine. It's a big breaking point. Brian Lockwood's obviously a little bit disappointed or annoyed with the early contact going on at the previous corner, but he shoves him out wide. I think at that point you concede. If you're Quintin Violetta, you've already had some incidents in this race. You've already had your nose in. Brian's got to get into the corner at some point. Yes, there is a slight overlap, but it's not enough. And this type of corner that it is, the way that it switches back so quickly, I think you just get out of that one. You let Brian take the line. So I think Quintin Violetta is definitely going to get a talking to. Have a review committee look at his race post the results. And I wouldn't be surprised if we even see potentially, and I know it's not my place to say, but some deduction or merit points on his record going into the next round.
Yeah, of course, there are stewards who review these races after each and every round. So what you're seeing on screen right now, you know, it will get looked at by a team of stewards.
And fair play to Quintin. I like to see a rookie that's aggressive. I think that the first one was a clear misjudgment when he took out Jack Sedgwick. That one's clear. This one, okay, there's a bit of racing influence to it, and they're being competitive, they're being aggressive. I think this one's less of a mistake, but it's just not good judgment overall on that situation. And I think you just let Brian Lockwood get back in, stick your, one for you, one for me, and go about it on the next lap potentially. And we've got one on this lap to talk about as the rookies continue to be the show on the track for all of us to be entertained by right now, although almost off the track as well.
There's got to be an element of self-preservation comes into it at some point as well. At the end of the day, you are racing across the internet. You can't always guarantee that gap has completely gone. So, you've got to be careful. But Sonnen was very aggressive on that defensive move through turn number 4. We're coming towards the end of the race here because we were on about a lap and a quarter to go for your race leaders as well. So Biko has been very aggressive as well. Another one of those rookies who has been showing well in this feature race here. Through turn number 12 they go once again. Here's your leaders though. This is the start of your final lap of the feature race here. It's Kevin Ellis Jr. 0.8 of a second lead over his teammate Jamie Flug, with Zach Campbell 3rd place right now. Max Benneker has actually dropped back a little bit, and he's got the attention of Jeremy Bootsloop and Cooper Webster. So we've got 3 battling for 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and 3 battling for 4th, 5th and 6th at the front of your field here, Matt. But Ellis Jr., he just needs to just keep doing what he's been doing all race here, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I'm so impressed that he's been able to keep this gap what it is. He's just driving so clean, so composed, and no one being able to really close in on him at all. We've seen this gap kind of hover between 0.6 and 0.7 on various intervals of the track, but Kevin Ellis Jr., very, very well done. Very mature drive. And we saw with the experience that he has when we saw his last camera shot. There it is. There he is. As I say it, he just looks relaxed. He's not putting any pressure on himself at all. And you compare that to our All-Star race. I know it's very different drivers and circumstances, but remember how insanely sweaty Jimmy Broadbent was at the front. I say that out of admiration. And obviously he was under pressure more circumstantially in that whole race, but it's just, this guy's such a composed driver in this position. So very impressed from Kevin Ellis Jr. right now.
Yeah, Ellis Jr., of course, won the feature race, the first feature race of the season last year at Interlagos. He's just got a few more corners to go, and he will have another race victory to his name through the final chicane for the final time. He's got one more corner to go, and then Apex Racing Team, they will celebrate, and they will celebrate this well in Corby. Look at the reaction from Kevin. That's what it means to him. It's a 1-2 here for Apex Racing Team. Kevin Ellis Jr. the win. Jamie Fluke gets the 2nd place in the end, with Zach Campbell right behind in 3rd place. Max Benneker is able to beat out Jeremy Bootsloop and Cooper Webster across the line. Still, the battles continue. Across the line they go. And I can tell you, Sebastian Job finished outside of the points out of all of that.
Well, and the reason why that actually means so much as well for points, Kevin Ellis Jr. that we just saw win this race was 21st and 18th in Hockenheim. Those are still point-scoring positions, but what a turnaround, one race can make for him.
Well, let's take you then to the Bose post-race show here, and give you your provisional race results here in the feature race in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Round 2 from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Kevin Ellis Jr. 1st place by 0.7 of a second over his teammate Jamie Fluke. Zach Campbell rounding out the podium. Max Benneker, Jeremy Bootloop, Cooper Webster with Dino Lombardi as well. 2 rookies, 6th and 7th. Gianni Vecchio in 8th ahead of Ayashan Guvan in 9th, and Quentin Violate 10th place. Julian Sonnen in 11th ahead of Alessandro Pico. Then Thomas Tetler, Diogo Pinto with the recovery drive into 14th ahead of Sam Keitet. Kamil Grabowski, Salva Talens, Oscar Bixrud, Jeff Giassi and Jordan Caruso in 20th place. Matt David Williams, Morena Sarica, Jack Sedgwick and Fortune. Oh, now there's been a change on these results then. Sedgwick in 24th, Sebastian Job 25th, so he does get 1 point in the end there. Alexander Walters, Brian Lockwood further down in your order as well. And there's some of your drivers that did not finish. And well, Matt, you've got our race winner.
Yeah, the greatest troll on Discord, but this time at the front, no trolling to be had. Kevin Ellis Jr., a winner last year at the opening feature round. This year it didn't go quite so well at Hockenheim, but today's a bit of a recovery, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely one way to make up for round one. You know, it really didn't go the way we wanted it in round one, and to come back here, you know, and really fix the issues that we had in qualifying. Yeah, you know, the guys done such a great job. I need to give Johan a big shout out. He found something that helped us in qualifying. And, you know, the whole team have just done a mega job over these past couple of weeks to remedy the issues and make sure we rocked up here and got the season back on track.
Well, and it's a 1-2 as well. You're not alone in that room on the podium. Speaking of that room, what a difference, or what kind of difference, I suppose, has that Apex facility made for you guys in your preparation this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. Obviously, being able to look a teammate in the eye and stuff like that is just, it makes a small edge when you're sitting having a conversation about setup, about racing, about, you know, anything that can sort of boost the performance. Yeah, it's just the morale has definitely been on a high, especially since you know, Pete obviously was here when he won Daytona 24. That put a huge boost for us, and you know, obviously my season personally hasn't gone great. We really felt like we were hard done by at Daytona. So yeah, to finally get a result is, yeah, it just feels amazing.
But speaking specifically about the PESC season as well, not to mention Daytona, which obviously you guys have other commitments within the team. But like I say, 21st and 18th in Hockenheim in a season, I think that's probably the most wide open yet in terms of competition. That probably didn't sit well with you, but does this change it? Do you now look at the overall championship and say, hey, I'm right back in it. We can still go for the win?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, being in with a shout for the championship was the goal coming in this season. Yeah, round one, I didn't really put the Q lap together, and I think we definitely missed something with the tyre prep. But yeah, as I say, we dug deep the last couple of weeks. I was actually a little bit short-handed on practice, so the guys done a mega job getting everything sorted out, so that when I came back, I was just straight into it, and it's just, yeah, I didn't have to try and figure anything out. It's just a case of getting on top of the strategy that the guys had already figured out. So yeah, hopefully, I don't know what the points look like. Obviously, don't really care too much either because it's only round two. You know, we just got to focus on bagging points every week. Just keep on banging in top eights and see where we end up coming into Monza.
All right. Well, yeah, Monza. Yeah, that's going to be wild. Not to mention at the end of the season, it always is. But we've got a lot of great racing before there. Congratulations on the win today. I'm actually going to leave you and go just behind you and talk to your teammate Jamie Fluke. Hey. Could have timed that a little better, Jamie, but not too bad. Listen, that was a good race overall from you guys, and you were a little bit closer to all the drama behind. What was your thoughts going on as you have your teammate in front and a bunch of chaos in the rearview mirror?
So I had no idea about the chaos and then behind me. I just shut everything out and just focused on hitting breakpoints and hitting apexes, and that's all I could do. First few laps were a bit ropey on my end. I was really struggling with the car on cold tires, and Zach was, I think, actually quite generous with me. Didn't go for anything silly when there was an opportunity to there we go. Yeah, when there was an opportunity to go for it that could have caused a bit of trouble. It was a few marginal calls, and he stayed on the safe side of it and decided just to pick up the points for his championship efforts and whatnot. So once we got through the first few laps, started to settle into a groove, and yeah, even if I could have caught Kev, well, I wasn't going to get near him. He drove excellent up front. I couldn't get near him. If anything, to make my life a bit easier, because it was pretty tough keeping Zach behind, but unreal job from everyone, top to bottom, for the last 2 weeks to recover from obviously a difficult round one.
Sorry to cut you off. You had a remarkable achievement and obviously good atmosphere inside of that room tonight, no doubt, as you guys top the podium. But as you say, you did have to work hard to speak this man behind. Thank you, Jamie. As Zach Campbell joins us now, our third step on the podium. Back in America now, Zach, but in the seat, and not bad at all, from a rookie last year to a podium finish this year pretty early in the season.
Yeah. Not too bad at all. I'm pretty pleased. I mean, I think biggest thing was I knew we had too much downforce on the car by the time we got in the feature. And so I wanted to battle Jamie and just kind of see what I could do there at the start. But when you don't nurse in these tires and then you get stuck in dirty air, I mean, it's a recipe for killing them. So I'm pretty happy. You know, it's a little bit of what could have been, but it could have gone a whole lot worse. It could have been like last week. So I'm more than thrilled.
Yeah, well, and there was certainly some drama not far behind you as well, with some other teammates and various incidents that you were able to avoid. So, look, good start from you, obviously. Where does your season kind of come into this? Because as I mentioned on broadcast to a few people, you were in the Coanda Esports Hub helping the team, doing sort of an engineering role for the virtual Le Mans. Now you're back overseas, but how much communication is there still with you and the hub?
So between me and the team, I mean, it's awesome. You know, I think the time zone kind of works out almost right too, because I can come home from school and doing classes and all that and come home and really be able to talk to the guys. I mean, it's really nice, especially to have Mitchell de Jong in my box as well, and be able to have him kind of coaching me through things, because he's obviously been through a lot more than I have in the sim. So it's nice to have a really good voice like that. And I mean, honestly, this is the best environment I've ever been in terms of a team. It's so productive, so conducive. I mean, you see it, how many cars we had up front in qualifying, and, you know, we had a few guys up there in the race and a few guys that, you know, had issues. But I mean, it was really, really nice to see, and really, really nice to have kind of just be a part of that whole deal.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, good to see you again, and congratulations on a podium early in the season. That's a fantastic way to get started.
Yeah, not too bad. I wish it would have been more. I told Jamie, like, when we came and got dragged in and we were talking, I told him there were 33 other guys in the field I would have knocked straight off the track to get in second, and it just happened to be the one guy that I don't have the heart to do it to. So
yeah, good point as well, because those guys are former teammates, obviously.
Yeah.
To you, so it is a bit different in that regard.
Yeah, there's some guys that I circle where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to be behind him because they weave all over the track and, you know, really throw blocks and stuff. And I was sitting there behind Jamie, and I'm like, I hate being behind this guy because he's way too nice for me to just destroy him.
Wow. You were one of the only ones that didn't do that today. So
yeah, so I saw.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Congratulations on the podium.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, man. Hopefully we can talk this time next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the case, Paul. We are very, very near already to our next race. We know our track now. We're heading to Brazil. Bit of a vacation at a rather remarkable circuit, I think. There's our points, and this is closer than it was at the start of the race, but surprising for a number of names on there.
Yeah, I mean, look at how that swung. It was a 23-point lead for Diogo Pinto going into the feature race there. Now just 4 points behind is Jeremy Bouteloup, who's putting on a championship charge early on in this championship. Ayachan Gouvan, a solid race around for him in third place. Cooper Webster, your top rookie out of all the championship there in fourth. Jamie Fluke, those points from that those races here today have really done him well. Max Benneker, Kevin Ellis Jr., he'll be happy with that to bring him up there. Zach Campbell, Alejandro Sanchez and Graham Carroll rounding out your top 10 there. But Matt, this has been absolutely sensational, the opening of the championship.
Barcelona, man. Barcelona. Brutal Barcelona. I think that's what I'm going to have to call it from now on for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. It is merciless. Diogo Pinto, yeah, coming out in the lead in this one by just 4 points. He'll be happy with that, considering how the second race went. Ayachan Gouvan still in this as well, considering how a quiet day. Cooper Webster, I'm impressed with. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, even Kevin Ellis Jr. scored very minimal points. Let me look back at my notes. Where was he? He was way back in 23rd in this championship, and now he's, you know, right up there among the top. So very well done. But as we said, Paul, we now know our facility and circuits, and what a beautiful track we have for round 3.
Yeah, 2 weeks time, so not next week, but 2 weeks time, March the 5th. Make sure you join us, because this will be an absolute cracker. It's always fantastic racing around Interlagos out there in Brazil for round number 3 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, as voted by all of you fans who took part in the poll to decide which track.
Thank you, fans, for not picking Long Beach. I had to say it.
We would have had an interesting couple of races, that's for sure, if that was the case. That's not to say that Interlagos won't be interesting next time out, March the 5th. But, well, as we'll look at these pictures then of our Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup drivers, the competition was close, there was controversy, there was drama, there was chaos just all the way through these races. But what we did see was some sterling drivers at the front of the field. Diogo Pinto with the sprint race win. Kevin Ellis Jr. with the feature race win. Make sure you join us 2 weeks' time for all the action from the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup 2022.